Commissioners are present in chambers. I need a motion to approve the business agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve the business agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the business agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing that, although I guess I would note just for the record, we did move the 11:15 item, the discussion regarding the governor's Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery from the morning to this afternoon session, likely around 2:35-ish. And so I guess I would note that that was the chair's discretion to move that item into the afternoon when the health officer or the health director is available. So without any other discussion, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Mr. Commissioner, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the commissioner meeting minutes for January 5th, 2021 as presented.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second on the January 5th, 2021 minutes. Any discussion?
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
I would like to, for the record, state that I very much appreciate the quick turnaround on the meeting minutes that's happening as of late. I just want to thank everybody for that.
Okay, that's good. Yes, we're trying to start the new year in a new expedient way. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion. That's the minutes. That brings us to citizen comment. This is will be limited to 7 minutes per individual. If you want to make comment, these will be for items that are not on the board's agenda. Later, if I'm going to open it up if you want to raise your hand. We can see folks or unmute yourself. I'm looking for any raised hand. This is citizen comment. Yeah, if my seatmates can help and the clerk.
People that are not on Zoom would just have to unmute their phone and
themselves.
say, I would like to speak.
Right, and if you do, then say your name and where you live for the record, and then you can address the board for 7 minutes.
Greg Wagoner, I believe, is unmuted.
Okay, Mr. Wagner, did you have public comment today, sir?
Yes, sir. My name's Greg Wagner. Live at 303 Fish Hatchery Road. I'm a member of CC, Citizens Organized about solar energy. Today, my comment is our group CEASE was formed by concerned citizens of the county due to the encroaching industrial scale solar farms. Our mission is to educate everyone about all the issues of solar. With that knowledge, the citizens and you can make an educated decision. Any decision regarding the future of industrial scale solar farms in our county should be made with the input of all concerned citizens. CEASE is not totally opposed to solar when done responsibly with all the concerns fully addressed and resolved. CEASE is not your adversary. We want to work with you to keep our county a great place to live. This is not a me issue, it is a we issue. We have brought to your attention and the citizens many of the problems associated with industrial scale solar farms. In our canvassing of the entire county, we have found very little support for it. As you have been made aware of, the current ordinance was not written for solar and for wind, and need to be rewritten and adopted to provide protection for our citizens and the county. We have asked for a moratorium, and you stated you need more time to study the issues. The whole purpose of a moratorium is to delay an action. That delay in the form of the moratorium will give you time to complete your studies. It will also prevent any future industrial scale solar project from being permitted in our county. A moratorium does not cost anything and will not hurt anyone. It is in the best interest of all the citizens and the county. White Salmon recently enacted a moratorium on residential development until their leaders learn more and can make the right decisions. So why aren't we? Let's trade places. The solar farms are going to surround your home, and I'm your commissioner. What would you want me to do for you? Let's do what's needed so our county remains what it is today, a great place to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Anybody else for citizen comment?
I would like to speak, Commissioners.
Please give your name and where you live, please.
Rosefield Dimmick, 55 Tucker Hill Road, and I too am a member of CEAS. And we reached out to you about several questions in which you'd answered, and you had us. You wanted us to ask our own fire departments these questions, and the questions were whether or not they had been receiving any special training to fight structural fires or solar panel fires. And when we did reach out to them, Dave Telford, District 7, said that he had not received any specific training for these type of fires. And so I went and researched the Lund Hill Final Environmental Impact Statement. And I also read in there that it says that it states that our wildland districts don't have equipment to fight structural fires. So my question to you, commissioners, are how are fire departments going to address any fires that are going to happen at these locations, especially given the fact that they are notorious for starting wildfires? And again, we just ask that you also read these documents that have been published by this county and ask yourself whether or not they are sufficient in covering these solar farms from coming into our county. And by doing so, you can place that moratorium to buy yourself some more time to address these important issues that compromise our county's safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Demick, this is Commissioner Christopher, and as a volunteer firefighter in Centerville, we do not have training to fight a solar panel fire, but we would do what we could do with what we had at the time to handle what we could handle.
This is Jake Anderson, District 1 Commissioner. Ms. Dimick, did you say that the wildland fire districts do not have the ability to fight structural fires?
That's what it states in the Lund Hill Final Environmental Impact Statement.
Okay, I thought that's what you might have heard from your speaking with the fire district.
That is correct, because we were told by your offices that in order for us to get those answers regarding the safety of our fire department, you had mentioned or recommended that we reach out to our districts and ask those questions, and we did so yesterday and talked to Dave Telford, and as you also just reiterated that you have not received any specific training.
And Lee, when are we doing our tour?
The tour, you're gonna put me on the
24th,
spot.
I believe.
Yeah.
Start looking at my
24th. And
It's the 25th of
25th.
February.
25th of February. Thank you very much, Mrs. Dimmitt. I'm trying to write down all of your questions. They're the same questions I have. And when we do our tour on the 25th, these are the questions I plan on asking the other governments where we're going to visit.
Well, Commissioner, I want to kind of point out that the Lund Hill project has been finalized and approved. So these are concerns that residents out here in the Knight area are very concerned about, because it's almost like we have a magic 8-ball of the future, and it's called Lund Hill. So residents now are looking to projects that have already been approved and comparing them to what might be our future. And that's the most concerning part, is that you're just now on the board of going and visiting other locations, which are much smaller than the ones that are projected to be in this area. And you're asking the people who are actually with the companies for their input. And we want you to perhaps go on the opposition and see the other side. So the foxes aren't in charge of the hen house.
Ms. Dimick, that's why I made this statement. This is why I'm going to be asking the jurisdictions when we go on this tour. I'm not asking the solar panel companies.
Okay. Well, there's many counties across the nation who are updating their ordinances, and we, urge you to perhaps look at Klickitat County. They have just recently updated theirs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're still in citizen comment. Are there other, I have a hand raised.
Elaine Harvey.
Yes, Elaine Harvey, if you want to unmute yourself and state, well, we know you're Elaine Harvey, but your place of residence as well, please.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Elaine Harvey, and I live at 435 Hill Road, and I'm also a member of the CEAS group. And my concern is about the energy overlay zone. And I listened to you guys' meeting last week, your comments in regards to the energy overlay zone, and you guys stated that it doesn't need to be updated right now, but it does, because you guys are people, BPA, the solar companies, landowners, who else has been planning this night solar project for the past 3 to 4 years. So I'm pretty sure there's other solar projects planned for the county. And this energy overlay zone needs to include solar impacts to the environment, residents, and it needs to be done. In the Lund Hill Solar project, it kind of slid through without anything in regards to environmental impacts that they have to Pine Creek and to Wood Creek, and to the loss of the shrub steppe habitat in the wildlife, the deer wintering habitat. So the EOZ needs to include solar panel impacts to the environment and to residents, because as we already know, there's one property in Lund Hill that's totally surrounded and enclosed by this big solar project. So that's my comment. And also, I'm not even sure if the John Day water pump storage project, are they included in the EOZ? And is the EOZ, does it include the water pump storage? So these are big issues that need to be taken care of. And I don't think they're taking, it's not taken serious by in consideration of these big energy projects that everybody's calling green. How can a green energy project be green if it's causing so much environmental damage? So that's my comment today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harvey.
We have a Sherry, and I'm going to kill her last name. It's Bousquet.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Sherry Bousquet. I live on 120 Houston Street in Houston, and I would like to kind of piggyback on the SEPA comments and in the project you also have coming up. I'm not sure if I can speak of it if you haven't reviewed it yet. It's in review, but it too has a mitigation, a determination of non-significance has already been placed on it by county planning. And as the citizens review the SEPA checklist, the environmental checklist, it's quite apparent to lay citizens who it's not even our job to know these environmental impacts, but we can see inconsistencies, skewed numbers, and a lot of SEPA things that should be addressed in this application, blatantly not addressed. And this project that's proposed in Houston would have quite an impact on our environment. And again, as I say, just a normal citizen can review the SEPA evaluation environmental checklist and see that it's missing quite a lot of important.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to stop you. This is, I'm assuming the project in Houston you're speaking of, since you didn't mention it by name, is the Under Canvas project. that SEPA is, it's open for public comment right now, which you can direct those comments to the official. But that if there is an appeal of that SEPA, it would come to this board. And so you cannot really comment as to the efficacy of that SEPA or anything to the board at this time. If there is an appeal, then you will be able to raise those issues with the board. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for us not to recuse ourselves. We are going to be acting in a capacity as, basically the judge at that point, and we're not having the hearing yet. But I would suggest that is the open comment period right now. If there are issues in that SEPA or any SEPA, generally during that comment period, this is your opportunity right now to submit those concerns that you have to the SEPA official right now, and that can get entered into that record right now.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. So if I can make it a broad statement on any upcoming project that the county puts an MDNS on.
Yes.
If when the county is looking at SEPA applications, if they could be more stringent and really evaluating them and making sure that they have followed full protocols, that I think is a part that the county can really step up on and assure us citizens who end up having to do our own work to combat SEPAs that aren't quite done or whatever. And then also the taxpayers reach into our own pocket to then do appeals, fight these SEPAs. So in the future, I'm asking that the county evaluate these SEPA environmental checklists more stringently and side on the citizens. And really at the end of the day, are they complete? Are they good? Before just issuing a non-significance to them. That would be my general comment to the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. Go ahead, try again, sir.
It was feedback.
What was that, feedback?
We do have two phones that are unmuted.
Okay.
Was one of them.
Anyone else wanting to give, speak to the board, public testimony, or actually citizen comment?
This is Lynn Ward with Building Inspection and Compliance.
Right, go ahead, Lynn.
I just have a very quick update for you before next week when we have public hearing. I received word this morning that the adoption date has been further postponed to July 1st of this year for the 2018 codes.
Okay.
But we've already scheduled public hearings, so unless you want me to do otherwise, we can still continue, and we've just revised our packet to indicate that July 1st date.
Right. What's the wishes of the board?
I stay on schedule would be my guess.
Yeah, I would support that.
Why did they push it back, Lynn? Do you know?
I don't know. I just know that the State Building Code Council voted on the 8th to postpone it till July 1st. That's the only verbiage we were given.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, we've already advertised, let's go forward. We'll just, we can just amend our thing as far as the implementation date so it aligns with whatever date the state ever ends up. I think it's interesting that we're talking, it's 21, and we're talking about implementing the 18 code.
Exactly. So what I am going to propose next Tuesday is that we say July 1st or the date decided upon by the State Building Code Council.
Okay. Let's say full steam ahead or half steam or whatever that is.
All right.
With our
Just didn't want to take you by surprise.
Yeah. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Okay, we've still got almost 10 minutes of citizen comment generally.
I would like to make one more comment, please.
Yes, please state your name for the record.
Rosedale Dimmick, 55 Tucker Hill Road. It was also brought to my attention that from Mochi Lindbergh that the appeal process or the appeal permit or application, it costs $4,000 to appeal a Class C project. Is that correct?
I'm going to speculate, but I think the appeal process, the fee to do it, there is a calculation based on the size of the project, and so that could be accurate. I think that's the maximum appeal
Yeah,
fee.
that was written in the energy overlay projects when it was created. Yeah.
Well, I would just like to comment that I think that fee is excessive, especially for any property owner that wants to appeal these such projects.
This is
And
Commissioner
I would-
Christopher, and I would agree with you.
And
Yeah, I'm not
in
going
addition,
to.
last week you guys had, I'm sorry, last week you had mentioned one of you commissioners, sorry, because I'm only on the phone and I can't see who's talking, but they had mentioned that the planning department was overwhelmed and that the EISs might not be updated because of her impact of how much workload that she has. The county has also appointed her SEPA responsible official and floodplain administrator. And I think that's a huge bearing, a load to carry on one person in our county. And perhaps if her work could be delegated outside of just one department too, we could get a better broad, opinion on these projects as well.
Okay. All right, we are still in citizen comment.
Mr. Commissioners, this is Greg Wagner, 303 Fish Hatchery. May I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead. I'm not saying I'm going to answer it, but go ahead. It is citizen comment, so.
Well, this question concerns Lund Hill Solar Farm. How was Lund Hill Solar Farm approved if all the environmental impact studies were done for a wind farm? And that's what they used as the guideline to allow a solar farm to be approved.
Mr. Wagner, I do know with Lund Hill Solar Farm, there were multiple meetings between county staff as well as the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And in the end, there was mitigation that was required for that solar farm. And I believe that mitigation goes to the county, and I think there's a certain, I don't know how much money's sitting in that fund. But there were meetings and discussions that were brought up. And there was, they based the mitigation off the old solar plans or the old wind plans, and then had to have multiple discussions after that. But there were multiple meetings that happened about the environmental impacts and including the ground, including the fencing, and there's always this dichotomy between what we would like to be able to see and then what the federal energy rules require in terms of fencing and letting animals through. And we're always stuck in that middle ground. And there's a lot of instances where we'd like to see things done. I was county staff at the time, but the feds won't allow it to happen.
Well, in reading the final environmental impact study, it appears that most of that has been written for wind farms, because that's what all the EOZ and everything was written for in the first place, with little consideration to solar. And even when you read like Michael Ritter's comments from the WDFW, and you're talking about the size of fencing and all that, it looks like many of those issues went unaddressed. And if you're going to have a solar farm, they ought to have complete new studies done that relate just to the impact of a solar farm, which is totally different than a wind farm. You do an avian study on a wind farm, you have whirling propeller blades that knock birds out of the sky. That's totally different than when a solar panel's flat facing straight up and it looks like an ocean, and the birds fly and think they're going to land on water and they hit these solar panels or are killed, or they get electrocuted. You know, it's totally apples and oranges when it comes to the impact of it. So the study should have been done which shows direct relationship of the impact that the solar farm is going to have, not base it on a wind farm study. You know, the EOZ is written so that these corporations can come in. We've done a lot of the studies in advance, and they get to come right in the county. But if you're going to let a solar farm come in based on wind farm studies, that's inappropriate. It should have probably never been approved without new studies being done. So the concern is, what happens to any future growth of solar? Do we just all say it's the studies we've had done for wind apply to the solar and they come in? You know, we already have the problem that the solar farms are exempt from electrical inspection, and the people that will install the equipment don't even have to be trained according to the LNI and the RCWs. They all state that. So we don't even get to inspect what goes on in our own county over there on 4,513 acres of ground, not to count whatever will come in the future. These are important issues. We're kind of putting the cart before the horse on many things here instead of doing our due diligence and making sure we got it all covered before we allow it to happen. So that's all I have to say. I believe we need to go in the right direction and really look at all these things before we allow anything else to occur. That's why we need a moratorium. We can't let one of these companies come in, submit a plan, and get grandfathered under the existing, almost non-existent ordinance for solar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Any other citizen comment?
This is Sherry Bosque again, and I would just like to go again with the MDNSs, the mitigated determination of non-significance, that are just put on these projects so easily with so many mitigated terms, and that I think as the county moving forward really should evaluate, as the citizens, you taxpayers, you're to protect us first, not the special interest corporations with mitigating things that violate the SEPA environmental checklist. So again, I just wanted to state as a citizen, a taxpayer, that if you could really look at these projects before you just say they have non-significance, that would be great for us as citizens that you work for, and not make us spend $4,000 to appeal something you slapped a determination of non-significance on without proper studies. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to take some, I'm going to push back a little bit. First off, the $4,000 appeal fee is specific to these large, it actually isn't an energy, and I don't believe it's actually in the energy overlay zone. It is actually any large scale project is the appeal fee. Appeal fees for smaller projects, there's a sliding scale where it gets down, where the idea actually of the fee is to cover the cost to provide the appeal as far as for postage and whatnot to mail all the stuff out. So I want to make sure that other folks listening, that the appeal fee for any appeal is not $4,000. As to the non-significance, an MDNS is just, it's not saying that there is nothing of significance. It is a mitigated determination of non-significance, which means there is significant things, but they can be mitigated if you follow all of these conditions. MDNSs have, depending on the scale and the scope of the project, can have countless requirements in them to make them non-significant. If the project, whatever it is, doesn't follow that, then it can't move forward. And I think all of us as taxpayers do not want, or as citizens in this county, I can tell you, I don't want to live somewhere that folks can, that the county or the state or the feds can impose so many conditions on anything I can do with my property that I can't do anything with it because of, real or perceived potential possible impacts from something. Now, can we do a better job? Of course we can. And I think but that is our job, is to try to identify through the SEPA process, what are all of the possible things? And then there has to be an answer for every one of those. And if all of those can be answered so that you can get to an MDNS, the project can move forward. I support that, whatever the project is. I'm not necessarily talking about solar or any other large scale project or any project. Otherwise we could be in circumstances. I mean, there are potential where you have to fill out SEPAs for doing things that you're doing around your house. And pretty soon we are having SEPA checklists having to be, these really large things just to put an addition on your house or put a new driveway in, so it's kind of a balancing act between that. We try to do that, and obviously some folks think that we don't do a good job of balancing out impacts over private property rights. So I'm going to leave it there. Actually, I'm going to go with Mr. Christopher.
This Commissioner Christopher, I just have a quick statement that what Mr. Commissioner Sauter just said, 100% totally agree with every word he said. The process will work out. Just got to trust the process to some degree, which I know is hard, but we'll get there.
This is Commissioner Anderson. One thing people have to understand about the process is an MDNS means that there will be mitigated measures. Even if you go to the next step, which is an EIS, and we're currently in the midst of multiple EISs in this county, an EIS can usually cost upwards of $1 million.
Right.
I don't think if you want to put an addition on your house, you want to spend $1 million on the environmental impact statement studies with the 4 alternatives and everything else. Because nothing would ever get done if that's the level of hoops we have to jump through for everything. And then where we're getting with some of these MDNSs is we're practically writing EISs.
Yeah.
We have the exact same issue with our federal forest projects. It's an EA versus an EIS or something. It's the same thing. You're doing practically a full EIS to the point where it's multi-years. You can look at the EIS that we're doing on the bridge replacement project, and that's in upwards of multiple millions of dollars just for the environmental studies. At what point do you have to say we're moving forward and we're all going to pay for that bridge in every one of those studies? So that being said, the process is there so that people can have a say. That's what, and so there is. And people have to understand that there's 2 processes. There's the SEPA, which is supposed to be a checklist. And then there is the actual conditional use process, or whatever process you're going through, that has its own separate public comment, public testimony, and that's where the public is involved, as well as in the SEPA process. So there's always multiple checkbacks in, and there's the appeals process on top of it. So the process is there for a reason, and I think the process does a good job. It's just that, like everything we've been hearing about, whether it's solar or this thing down in Houston, everybody wants to comment now ahead of it, but you have to comment during the right time. And that's where your voice is heard.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna move us along, try to keep us somewhat on schedule. Thank you all. We'll close out citizen comment for now. We'll have another one next Tuesday at about 1:02. I look forward to
Thanks, everyone.
more citizens commenting.
And Mr. Chairman, one thing for the future, I would like to see is we've got 50 people on here regularly, and we might be running, a little late, and I want to stay to the agenda. But rather than saying you can come back next Tuesday and try to get on, if there's other people, I'd like to throw it on at the end and have public, push the public comment so that everybody has their say.
Yeah, or take any new business, new comments first.
Right.
Uh,
And I would support that. I will remind folks today is that we had at least 2, maybe 3 commenters that commented more than once.
Right.
Right.
So I will generally, yes,
I
I
think
agree.
that's
I
right.
agree that generally speaking, I want to give everybody the opportunity that wants to have public comment, to be able to have public comment. And I appreciated that folks didn't necessarily use their whole 7 minutes. You don't have to use the 7 minutes, and they didn't, to allow other folks to talk,
I
but
appreciate there's 30 of them paying attention to their local government. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
that is good. And we will do what we can to I want to make sure folks have an opportunity. Okay, so we are going to move on now. We do have an update from the Big River Community Land Trust Board President, Ann Mindenbach.
She is on the line.
And she is, if you're on the line, go ahead. Up, there you are. We can see you. Hopefully you can see us.
Yes, I can. Hi, commissioners. Thank you for giving us just a couple of minutes today to talk to you about Big River Community Land Trust. First of all, yes, my name is Ann Medenbach. I'm the board president and founder of Big River Community Land Trust. I'm joined by Chris Heald, who is a board member as well. And I just wanted to say thank you. Last year, the Board of Commissioners supplied us with a letter to the IRS that supported our 501c3 application. We were successful and were designated as a nonprofit in January. So thank you. We couldn't have done it without you, the City of Hood River, City of White Salmon, and also Hood River County. So thank you. You all provided letters and helped us move forward. So for those new commissioners, what is a community land trust? Basically, it's a nonprofit that is organized locally, that acquires and holds land for the benefit of the community, and is focused on providing home ownership that's affordable to community residents. What that means for Big River is that we are here to develop and steward a stable supply of permanently affordable, sustainably built homes for sale, which preserve the dynamic character of our Central Gorge communities. We work in Hood River and Klickitat counties, and we focus on funding homes for people who are low to middle income earners. So that's 80 to 120% of median family income. So we do that through grants, fundraising, and partnerships with private and public entities such as yourself. So feel free to interrupt me anytime, but we'll have maybe room for questions at the end. So why is a community land trust important, especially here in the Gorge today with our dire crisis of affordable housing? First of all, that issue has not been solved. Secondly, community land trusts are tools that have been used since the 1970s around the country to help communities solve problems with affordable housing. The existing tools that we have in our toolbox, housing authorities and others, are really focused on either market rate housing or rental units for lower income earners. There's nobody right now focused on the 80 to 120 market for affordable home ownership in the Gorge. Why is this important? Well, using White Salmon, the City of White Salmon as an example, you've got a median wage of $65,000, which if you use HUD standards of 30% of that income to be used towards mortgages and housing costs, the top house that they can afford, the top price is just under $300,000. The median home price is over $500,000. There is a huge affordability gap here in the Gorge. So how does the CLT work? Well, the basics are that they acquire land, typically through the fundraising and donation process I mentioned earlier. The CLT develops that land and actually builds the housing for sale. And then here's the important part. The community land trust keeps the ownership of the land. They only sell the improvements. So the CLT itself, a nonprofit, maintains ownership forever of that land and keeps it affordable for subsequent owners. The CLT land leases to the homeowner on a 99-year basis, and it's renewable. So families can inherit, if they're eligible, if they meet the eligibility requirements, can inherit homes just like they would with a normal sale. If a homeowner is ready to move with the goal that the CLT has of moving them into a market rate home, then the CLT can facilitate a sale to a qualifying home buyer, keeping that home within the affordability range that we're shooting for, which is 80 to 120 MFI. What's good about that model? Sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Mr. Sauter, can you elaborate or expand on what you mean by facilitate a sale?
Yeah, so typically what a community land trust will do is keep a list of qualified buyers by working with other entities like housing authorities and WAGAP and realtors. They'll keep a list of qualified home buyers that want to buy a home. So they know sort of what kind of inventory is needed. And then when a house comes up for sale, they'll go typically to the first person in line that fits that home. So if it's a family, maybe they need a 3-bedroom. If one comes available, they come to that first person on the list and say, okay, look, we have something for sale for you. Have you taken your first time home buyer class? Have you been pre-approved for your mortgage? And we kind of help them through that process so they can go ahead and get a mortgage and then purchase that home. So the CLT really facilitates in keeping those who are eligible for homes in the know about what's available for them, and then working with other sources like the Housing Authority, who does a great first-time home buyer course, working with them to really facilitate home ownership for residents of our communities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so things that are different about the CLT model versus sort of a market rate development model is that the price of the land is eliminated from the home price. In our area, that makes up about 25% of the home price. So we take that out of there by keeping that in CLT ownership. Secondly, the land is held in perpetuity for the purposes of affordable home ownership. And that's a really great benefit for a community that CLTs are in. And then also those homes are removed forever from the speculative market, keeping them for lower to mid-income folks. And another big thing is that CLT homeowners still get some appreciation on their homes when they resell. It's not as much as appreciation as maybe the market would be, but they get some. So they're still building wealth and getting the benefits of home ownership versus rental. So again, those things are quite different from the standard market rate development. So again, home ownership is important. I think we all know is the #1 way that Americans build wealth. And so getting people from the rental market into home ownership and then eventually into the market is what we want to promote here with the CLT.
This is Jake Anderson, Commissioner District 1. Have you guys looked into when you buy on leased ground? I know like a lot of the cabins around Northwestern Lake, or what used to be Northwestern Lake, were on leased ground. And a lot of banks won't lend if you're on leased ground. And if you do, the prices seem to be higher rates. How do you guys get around that? Do you work with specific institutions? That's one of my questions. My other question is, so if you work with a family that comes in and they're making 80 to 120% of the medium wage, but then say they get a few promotions and now they're making really good money, what happens in that institution? You have people that need these homes, and now it seems like these people that could afford a different home, or it seems like they're getting quite the benefit that others could use. How do you deal with situations like that?
Sure. I'll answer your first question. We have been in conversation with folks on lease land, the specific group that you're talking about how a CLT could work with lease land. And there are options for bringing a CLT into that kind of situation. But I think more to your point, the question is, how do you finance those? There are local lenders that deal with community land trusts all the time, and even USDA can deal with community land trusts. It's been around long enough that many lenders are familiar with our processes and offer very similar rates to a standard market rate home. So yeah, we're hopeful that that's going to be not really a barrier to us. Your second question is the perfect example of what we want to see happen. We want to support those folks who are maybe coming in at the beginning of their career, or, young families, first-time home buyers who, are starting out sort of maybe in a low to middle income wage. And then, they are going to get hopefully farther along in their career. And one thing that CLTs have proven is that folks that start out there and then sort of wage out of the CLTs, they want to move into a market rate home, because CLT homes are typically smaller and your appreciation is capped. So you're not going to get the same market benefits that a market rate home would. You're going to have capped appreciation. That's one of the tools that the CLT uses to keep homes affordable for the long term. So our formula currently is 1.5% per year maximum appreciation. That's quite a bit lower than the market rate appreciation. So if you're somebody who has now enough salary to go ahead and get a market rate home, you're going to want to do that so you can maximize your appreciation and allow somebody else who's in the lower income brackets to come into your CLT home.
May I add something to that, Ann?
Yeah.
The other aspect of it is when they do, with the intent of keeping these affordable, we do not allow them to develop their property any further. There are restrictions on anything they can do to change the floor pattern, the outside dimensions, anything like that. They are expected to maintain the properties, of course, because that's the improvements belong to them. But it's not a deed restriction. The lease only allows them to maintain it and not necessarily to make it any larger. So if they're getting bigger, and they're going to be 13,000 square feet, maybe 1,300 square feet, excuse me. They are going to be outgrowing this house, and they are going to want to move. And at that time, they will have enough equity developed that they can afford a down payment for something that's more market rate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. That segues directly into our next slide that just kind of shows you, this is a study that was done in Portland with a very established CLT there. Pardon?
I'm not seeing a slides. I don't know if the counselors are, but if the
we have paper copies. We're following along on paper.
Great, thank you.
We're kind of old school here sometimes.
Oh my goodness.
Still.
So anyway, the next slide really shows you that significant equity can still be gained with a community land trust home, helping these people take that ladder step from rental to ownership. So who are we talking about? Low to middle income earners. This is really the heart of our workforce, in the United States and for sure in the Gorge. So we're focused on that 80 to 120 annual income. And most of these people are going to be first-time home buyers. This will enable them to break out of that rental market. Typical cost of construction based on some numbers in the Gorge. Again, we're looking between 1,000 and 1,400 square feet for our homes, with an estimated construction cost of about $175 a foot just for construction. So this removes, again, the cost of the land for the buyer and is within the range of affordability for most of the low to middle income earners we're focused on. So where are we? What are our goals? We're looking for partnership, public and private partnership, to help our communities achieve our affordable goals. Those are different in each county, but we all need more inventory for homes for sale and for rent. We'd really like to be that player that helps you with that homes for sale market for affordability. We're growing our organization and our resources right now. We were formed in late 2019 and just got our nonprofit status last year. And like many nonprofits, we're dealing with the pandemic just like everybody else. So we're moving along and we're growing as we can. And we're continuing our outreach and our awareness. We want people to know who we are and how we can help. We want to this year acquire land and start our first project. with the goal of selling 3 homes in 21. We'd like to have 100 homes in our portfolio within the next 10 years in the Gorge. That's a significant impact that we feel is attainable. How you can help, we want to be involved in your affordable housing discussions. We are a tool and we want to be integrated into your planning efforts so we can help where needed. We're always looking for land and financial donations and partnerships. We're looking for SDC reductions, permit efficiencies with projects that we do within your jurisdiction, and potential density bonuses for community land trusts, and other ways that you find that we can help. So I didn't want to take much of your time today, but I do want to thank you very much and open it up for any questions. And my contact information is here in case you have questions, in the future.
Okay. Another question, one of the heavy things, especially in the west end of Klickitat and Hood River County, the property taxes. So if you're given this on a 99-year lease that's renewable and can be passed down, those property taxes are still going to get assessed on that ground. Who pays those property taxes and where's that money come from?
So typically community land trusts apply for a property tax exemption for the land. The homeowner would still pay for property taxes on the home, the personal property taxes of the home, but we would ask for an exemption.
Okay. And then are people allowed to rent out their homes?
No.
No, to a certain extent. What we want to avoid is a short-term rental issue that we've had in multiple areas in the Gorge. So we have a limit on how many days you can rent out or be gone from your home. And Chris, remind me if I'm wrong, I can't remember right now. I believe it's 2 months out of the year.
2 months that they can be occupying the house. But even then, any rental has to be approved by the land trust.
Yep. So if it's a short-term rental on, one of the Airbnbs or something, that is likely not going to be approved by the land trust.
I was more thinking like if somebody has to go work somewhere else for 6 months, are they able to rent out their house while they're gone?
Right. And they can come to the land trust for an exemption if that's the case.
Other questions?
Well, very informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Hopefully some other time we can actually
With real slides.
in person, as far as that's our goal. I mean, it's.
I do have a question as opposed to coming directly to the commissioners. Is there someone in the county that would be best to approach about things like tax lots and other maybe potentially available properties to acquire through the county?
That's a good question. I mean, I would typically volunteer myself as far as, but that's.
Is that Mr. Powder?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we can have that conversation if you want. I can share with my seatmates rather than, head you off to staff, which is just going to come back and talk to the board.
Right.
So.
Well, it's just that having to come to your board meetings in order to make these conversations is a little awkward when maybe we don't need to.
Right. And that would be my recommendation is that.
Okay, thank you.
Set that up and we can have a private conversation and I can, me or actually either, I mean, if this land trust is really focused more on the west end of Klickitat County. I mean, I'm not sure what your service area is. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be me. It could also be Commissioner Henderson if he was amenable.
And I don't know how much land we actually hold over there other than dock grade.
Right.
Well, they're not looking at our land, are they? They're looking, I mean.
Well, I don't think they'd say no, but they're.
I don't know, that's a hillside.
Say, no, there's parcels that are water access only.
So you are looking at developing individual lots. You're not looking at developing, say, a subdivision that you're looking to do 3 homes on.
Yes, we are. We're looking at both of those options, both subdivision and non. And yes, we would and are entertaining donations of land from municipalities.
Okay.
And our service area is all of Klickitat and all of Hood River counties. We're mostly focused within the city limits, however, because those are where the highest property values are and some of the most need for more affordable housing, although it is throughout both counties.
What happens, one thing I always ask about nonprofits, if the nonprofit gets itself upside down, what happens in case of a bankruptcy of the nonprofit? What happens to these homeowners? What happens to, what are their rights?
So I haven't looked at our articles of incorporation for a while, but typically what a CLT does is those assets move into another entity that are serving the same public purpose within their jurisdiction. So something like the housing authority or some other entity that would serve a similar function and would take on those assets.
Yeah, and I think there's a model for that, a similar situation did happen locally with over in Hood River County, or in Hood River. It wasn't just Hood River, but was Hope was the organization that built and operated some affordable, apartments and stuff, and they did get into financial difficulty, and ultimately that there was an agreement in those properties. The bulk of them were transferred. I don't know that all of them were, to the housing authority that just continued that affordable housing mission. And so,
and additionally, within our ground lease, there are protections for the landowner should the land that the CLT owns and is leasing ever sells for some reason like that. So there's options for purchase and those types of things built into the ground lease.
How long have you guys been in operation?
1 year.
What's that?
1 year.
Okay.
okay. Anything else before we?
I'm good.
Okay, well, we'll let you go. Thanks for briefing us. And that would be my suggestion, is reach out actually to any of the 3 of us if you wanted. I can't speak for my seatmates whether they will reach back or not.
I think you're mostly vested towards that side of the county, so I would say reach to that side of the county. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to go pass you off to them anyway. So,
All right.
unless you're doing something in my neck of the woods, then you can reach out.
We aren't averse to that. You know,
No, adverse.
we to help the whole county.
I mean, if you're looking to get more land, go to Goldendale. You can get a lot more land for the same price.
They don't.
And there's probably just as much need there too.
I would think there is just as much need here. But and you're welcome to contact me. You'll probably get peppered with about 1 million questions, so take that under advisement when you do.
All right.
It's
Thank
a very
you.
interesting concept.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Bye
you.
now. Thank you.
Commissioner, would you like me to forward your contact info to them?
Yes, please forward my contact info.
Okay.
Lucky them.
We're actually running ahead now because we did the 2 o'clock
Some
this
really
morning.
good questions there. You had some really good questions there.
Mr. Chairman, I did reach out to the assessor, but she's not responded on her email.
Okay, well, we can move forward with the consent if folks are okay with that, and get our housekeeping stuff done. If anybody had any issues or.
Do you, here we go. Here's a procedural question. With situations like, making motions for the consent or a short plot, do you have an organizational procedure that you would like one side to read it versus the other side? Just so we know, or should we both go looking at each other each time?
Generally, if historically there wasn't any, it was we did literally just kind of, or sometimes it was like,
Whoever had.
yeah, it's like,
We'll just do it with whichever way he's falling.
Yeah.
Right. Good enough, just trying to get his, what do you want?
sometimes I gotta invite. So, yeah, I mean, I guess first I would raise the issue of the consent. Generally, that would be, these are items that we've either, they're generally things that we've already had a discussion about, or it's just housekeeping.
Or it's in the packet that we already looked at.
Right, it absolutely is in the
If we have any
packet, and if you have a question, we
questions
can pull
we'll
it.
Talk
we can
about
pull
it, and yep, no.
Right,
No
so,
issue there.
okay.
So I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with all 9 items.
I have a second.
Second.
Yeah, I have, oh, shoot, must have been listening. We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda, all 9 items. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. We've now been joined by the county assessor, Miss Krista Schroeder.
Sorry, Lee, I had to
No, that's
No,
fine.
no,
I had to
we're,
refresh my computer because I heard I had an email to the assessor. I'm like, what?
well, we're running 30 minutes ahead, so it's
Yeah.
not like, so I appreciate that you were available early.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to the county for the new guys.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thanks for staying for the old, old assessor.
Your reputation, actually.
There was a comment about seniors.
Yeah, yes, be careful.
It was, you masked, you couldn't see the lips moving.
Good thing that we don't sound it all away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you all apart,
Yeah.
having spoken with all of you guys in the past. So, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, typically the last few years, I've just kind of came before you guys really quickly and had it on the consent agenda the same day. But since we have 2 new members, I thought they might want a little more explanation about the money I'm spending. So we have 2 contractors and we've had them for a while. We have one that helps us with like the really day-to-day functionality of things. He creates all the reports for us and things like that that gets pulled out of our system and stuff that we use for sending all the information to the state and all that stuff. And if our software is doing something wonky and we can't figure out why it's doing that, we call him and he says, okay, well, it's right here. This is why it's doing that. And, So that is Mr. Loomer. He has worked for Spokane County as an appraiser for a lot of years. And he's been contracted with us for, well, through my term. And then I think probably the whole 4 years of the prior administration. So he's pretty familiar with what we do and what we need, and having worked for Spokane County, which has the exact same software as us, he's pretty good. He retired from the Spokane County this year, so he's just contracting. He was kind enough with losing that income to still not increase his fee to us. So that's been great. Our other contractor is, we use him for commercial appraisal. We barely used him last year because of everything that happened. We never got to do what we wanted to for commercial. But we're hoping that in the next year or 2, we can get move forward with that. So that's kind of like a history. Budget notes. So in the past, there was money allocated in professional services to cover the amount of both contracts, which is $12,000, because you want to budget to the most that you're going to possibly need. However, in the 2019 to 2020 final budget, $10,000 was removed from my professional services because typically I don't use the whole $12,000. And in kind of goodwill of continuing with keeping the budgets down, I left it out this year as well. But
Not citizen comments here.
yeah, sorry about that. But I just kind of want to leave it out there that y'all removed it to begin with. I went ahead and kept it, but I may need it.
Y'all.
Y'all. Yeah, sorry.
Only one y'all.
No.
But I do remember it being removed. So.
The board does things as a whole, regardless
I know.
of who who particular was there at the time. So,
But you didn't have it in this budget because you didn't think you were gonna need it?
well, because it was removed and I hadn't used it then. And we typically don't use $12,000. It's usually like 2 to 4 with Loomer and maybe like 1,500 or so with Cameron. The dollar amount was put in the contracts originally because of the proposed projects probably going to use that amount of money. But we haven't. And so we left the dollar amount the same. But yeah.
But you may not use it all.
Right. Yeah, we typically don't. And I mean, we are looking at a commercial upgrade in ProVal, and if that's the case, it won't be this year, obviously. But if we do that commercial upgrade, commercial evaluation upgrade, we'll need Cameron quite a bit and probably Loomer as well. Won't be this year.
And I would just say from maybe a more longer term perspective, a longer term look back, is I think part of it's just based on the relationship between not just the assessor, but I think all the electeds and the board is, we've always ask for what you need.
Mhm.
And if you don't need it, don't ask for it.
Right.
Or if you don't know if you need it, trust if you need something, you can come.
Yeah.
And we have always adjust
Like I said,
after.
my only question was if you thought, the budget was a week ago.
Mhm.
I was kind of surprised to hear it so soon that you may not have known about it 2 months ago.
No, I knew. I knew because it was taken out of 19 for 20, so I
Right,
left
which
it
would
out
have got
20 for
right,
Right,
21.
I guess I would say I would have expected to see it pushed back in for 2021.
No, because I hadn't used it.
You still didn't think you were going to.
And so
maybe.
more than likely, I'm probably not this year. So, and there's other money, like our budgets there's a lot of different categories in there that we can kind of move things around. And since we're not traveling for training and stuff,
I got him wound up.
Yeah.
I got him wound up.
and since we're not traveling for training, there's probably other categories that I could.
I don't
Pull that
have a
payment
problem
out
with
of,
it. To me,
yeah.
it was just a question on, is this a surprise to you? And if it's not a
Uh-uh.
surprise to you, why was it not in the budget?
It's not a surprise to me for 2020, for 2021.
What is your training budget usually? Sorry, I don't have that big book.
Usually, well, it comes into 2 categories. So one is like 5,000 and one is 7,000, but there's a lot of other things that go out of there. So your class fees come out of one category, your hotel fees and your, that comes out of another category. So those 2, and they have a lot of different areas that come out of those 2, but it's comes out of those.
But
5 and
likely, when I did training, it was usually 50-50, the training versus the expenses of getting there.
Mhm.
Depends on which training it was. So what you're saying is there's a good chance you'll be able to use that travel side to cover these if need be this year.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Well, so far, all the classes proposed are webinars like the DOR,
Mhm.
mandatory CEUs for the appraisers and things like that. We also apply for the Department of Revenue training grants every year. So we usually get approved for a couple of those. So that helps with, with the budget as well. Sometimes if we're not advertising for hiring employees, then sometimes we have a little bit of money in there that we didn't use for advertising as well. It can be moved around. So.
Are your assessors like on the West End, are they going out to homes right now or are they everything inside right now?
So our appraisers, what we implemented last year when all of this started, we were pretty much done with like regular revaluation, and we were hot into, really new construction. We held off for a while, and then we just called everybody and just told them we'll be there someday in the next 3 days. We're driving a white rig. It has the county emblem on them. We're going to be following the COVID-19, health requirements at the time. It actually went over way better than I thought it would. We
Yeah,
also.
someone is I got my new construction. They got it. They figured it out.
Yeah.
They came out. Yeah. No, they
We-
came out.
Praise it out the window.
Yeah. No,
We can't do construction, so we have to measure and everything. We
they were
did,
there.
we did not do a complete second pass on new construction like we usually do. So we usually start it early in the spring when roads are too bad to get to all of the reval parcels. And so we'll start the new construction that we assume, is done, like manufactured home placement permits that were done last fall. They're probably there. Percent completes where when we were there last year, they just had a few things to finish up. It's probably done. So we start those early. And then we'll go into the newer ones. And then sometimes we come back because we know the contractor's there, but they only have the foundation. The contractor said they're going to be done in 2 months. So we'll come back. Last year we did a one pass. That's why you'll notice that new construction is down about 20 million. But we'll pick it up this year, I'm sure. So we started revaluation last fall. We've almost finished it up. Yes, we were visiting people's houses. We sent letters out to let them know that you're in the revaluation area. We'll be out there, white rig, emblems on the door, COVID health things in place. We are having the appraisers go out individually. We usually do teams. 2 eyes are better than one. It also keeps the team integrated in quality of the projects and everything, and picking them up and make sure that they're in sync. And we've not been doing that. If we needed 2 people for some reason at a site, we had them take 2 rigs. We've been trying not to do that.
So by splitting it up, only having one person go, were we able to catch up with our reevaluations that we stopped because you have twice as many people out there?
Well, we were
Okay.
never really behind on reval.
Okay.
What we didn't do is a second go through of new construction. I'd say we're, about the same on having them out individually as having them out together. It seems like it would be more efficient, but it really isn't, because not only are you driving, but you're navigating and you're drawing and you're doing everything, where before there's 2 and you have one driving and another one navigating and writing everything down. And
Okay.
And then there's safety concerns, so it's a lot safer to have 2 people out there. They're not always happy to see us.
Do you have a comment?
This may or may not apply to that first budget issue, and I may soon regret coming over across the hall. But we asked the departments to prepare their 2021 budgets as status quo of 2020. So if something was removed in 2019, it wasn't added in 2021.
There's
It
my
wasn't
answer.
in 2020. So
I noticed they were all essentially status quo. I was just kind of curious if she kind of knew that one was coming.
So we'll probably find other things that were
Yeah.
taken out previously because everybody worked diligently to stick to the status quo. Issues like that may not be.
But since you're here, and for them anyway, I have a meeting tomorrow with Rob, the prosecutor, and our insurance company to talk about the possibilities of, number one, whether it's legal, number 2, whether our insurance company would even cover us, to put a little pop-up tent kind of thing outside the building. So like Governor's Cree, you can't go into a restaurant and eat food, but you can eat the food outside, and they put a pop-up tent up. So for like our auditor that's got to deal with seniors in this weather, if we could do something to get them out of the weather instead of standing in the parking lot, I don't know. Whatever that information is, I will bring it back to you next week. We can go from there, but I don't know, since she's here, if she wanted to plead her case,
Oh, yes, thank you.
if it turns out
Very
that this
much
is even
appreciated.
possible.
Thank you, commissioners.
Since he brought that up,
You're welcome.
and we're ahead of time, I'm going to reiterate, we are not serving the public to the best of our abilities. We are doing the best that we can with being closed. We've pushed things out that we could. But once again, we are a public building funded by public taxpayers wages paid by taxpayers, and we can't help them to the best that I think we could if we, could have more interaction. Seniors don't want to, nor is it safe to be mailing in their income, their, entire IRS folders. We've had originals mailed in. We've had cash in the drop-off boxes, and we don't even take cash. We only have applications for open space and designated forest, but we get wads of cash in our Dropbox. There's on the form for seniors, they either have to have 2 witnesses sign when they sign and submit everything, or we look at everything, they sign, we sign. They're looking at waiving the witnesses, and I haven't looked to see if they've passed that or not. But it's hard to deal with people in the parking lot. I mean, like this morning, you've got original documents out there that are
Pouring down rain and wind and
yeah. I mean,
And seniors are not necessarily all 100% technology and can upload and scan.
yeah, they don't have scanners. They don't have
if-
email.
If I mean, number one, we got to get the right answers tomorrow to even move forward. But that's why I'm essentially having this meeting with the insurance and the prosecutor, and then we'll have another one of these, and insurance will say, no, we're not covering you, or yes, we would cover you under these exceptions or these stipulations, and then we'll have the prosecutor, and then the board can make a decision on if they want to try to make some cover so they don't have to stand in the rain or hold an umbrella while they're doing what they're doing in the parking lot.
So under the new rules, which I guess we're going to talk about at 2:30, I'm assuming we're professional services, because
I don't actually know.
I couldn't see anything in there that said government. So professional services are recommended and encouraged to be close to the public if possible and work from home. Recommended, not required. It says that if we're at 25% capacity, and I don't know if that includes the employees or whatever it is, that we can be open with, and I didn't know we were talking about that, so I didn't bring that down, but there's specific parameters. We have to have a safety thing in place, and we have to have a cleaning thing in place, and we're doing all that already. So I think if that's what they're looking at, I think the insurance needs to read those and look at those, even if it's by an appointment. I mean, I just, if you're taking and you're auditing somebody and you're going to make them pay compensating taxes or additional taxes, interest, and penalties, where it could be alleviated if they could just come in and sit down and say, I don't understand, and look at you face to face. There's a huge difference between dropping things off, mailing things, emailing things, and working with our citizens face to face. So I would encourage trying to figure out something,
If, way I'm talking to the insurance guys tomorrow, and we're floating this little pop-up tent idea with a desk and a couple of chairs that are 6 feet apart. Is there anything else that you could see needing out there? I mean, I can't imagine having a copy machine out there when nobody's occupying the space.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can do it without.
We're not making this a permanent dwelling. We're just
Right.
A glorified umbrella of sorts.
Yeah.
But would you be asking for anything else along with that? Say a copy machine closer to the door.
No.
Just give me a tent and a desk and a couple of chairs, and I can serve my people.
I mean, we have that all figured out. Some cleaning supplies. You got to spray down between each person.
Right.
Disposable masks.
Say we're not looking
to bring
spread COVID or have health risks.
Right.
We just serve our people a little better and keep them out of the rain. That'd be nice.
I just want to publicly say I'm in full support of having a couple tents outside. There should be no reason why we can't do it. And I hope that our insurance says so. We've updated this building. We spent a bunch of money creating plexiglass before it was even popular. And we have that ability to separate the workers from the people coming in. there's a good chance we should be able to do with hopefully with the new updates, codes, that they can come in by appointments. You're seeing that in a lot of different things. But if you can get your hair cut, you can go talk to your, the appraiser. So thank you, Dan, for taking that on. I look forward to.
We will find out.
Any questions about my contracts at all?
No,
Okay.
I'm fine with them.
I do have like one more quick thing then, since we're here. So I
That's
listened.
okay, because I have something quick
Okay.
back.
I listened to your discussion this morning that was scheduled at 2 today, about appointing,
Oh, yes.
appointments for boards and commissions. I would humbly beg that the electeds and directors are included in your process. In the past, Lee would let us know that, hey, you have, this board member or this committee member that's coming up. Their term is expiring. And Lee would call and say, do you know if they want to come back? Do you want them back? And then if it was a yay, I'm assuming, and I was going to talk to you about this, but you would then go to the commissioner of that district and say, hey, this appointment's up and they want to renew.
I did not really go to the board because they were okay with them initially.
Okay.
And you're the one, your office works with those particular appointees on the open space.
Right. And that's why, at least me personally, I don't know what they would do with their district's appointees. But I contacted you.
Yeah.
To make sure you had, no conflicts or anything there, because I don't want to throw a wrench in your machine either. So hopefully that happens in all of the machines, but.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're trying to create a jury duty.
And then if there was somebody that didn't want to, serve longer, the pool, from my experience, has been both from, my office as well as from the commissioner of that district. That's what we did. Because the director or their staff or the elected and their staff, they're the ones that are down in the grind working with these committees and boards. And it has to be a good working relationship. We have to be able to work together. And we've seen when it doesn't. The auditors had issues. I've had issues. And so I would just humbly ask that you include, the offices and the officers and the electeds and the directors or their staff or whoever it is that they allocate for working on that, because you guys have the right to appointment, but we got to work with them.
Right. That's a really good.
Are you saying we have frustrating people out there?
Absolutely not. I can work with anybody.
Well, and I can say from,
Good point.
That is a really good point. I think we missed that this morning in our discussion, because one of the issues or points I was going to bring up this morning, just as further evidence of why this is important, is that we have had dysfunctional boards.
Yes.
That didn't work well together. Part of that prompted why we have that boards and commissions expectation, kind of here's the rules of the road with it, which were pretty much was just sort of the understanding, but then there were sometimes folks didn't really understand that, I am an advisor. I'm not a decision maker necessarily. And that's why it was really important to try to get that all down, why you have policies, so that they understood. So folks coming in understood, okay, this is really what your role is, and to try to get rid of some of that conflict, which I think it did. I think it didn't help with once, there was some education that came with that, but it's really, I hadn't really thought about including, you're absolutely right, the directors, the electeds that have to work on those might want to have some input, not necessarily in the choice per se, but
that should be kind of taken into account during your application process.
Right.
When you're going over a resume per se, you would be talking to the people that's going to have to work with them and reach out to them, extend an olive branch.
Yeah.
And
sure they're okay with it.
the expectations, that is great, because that lets you know you have to be a team player. You can't have one bully that rules the whole thing. And
I don't recall that a specific prohibition against that in
I
our
was gonna say,
handbook.
No, but
Yeah,
But I think
it implied
should be
that.
in there.
Yeah,
They might
yeah.
get a phone call from their commissioner
saying,
saying,
knock it off, right?
yeah,
I mean, I will say the only time I've ever threatened to go to the board and have somebody's appointment withdrawn was because of that.
Well, yeah, and
They were being a bully.
they should be reprimanded by their commissioner to fly right, or you're gonna be replaced.
and the other thing too is I'm sorry, I'm gonna use the y'all again, but y'all don't necessarily hear the day-to-day things, because you guys have a higher oversight. And so, you might not, the two groups might be doing their best to work together and not say boo to anybody, but if you, go to that director elected or whatever it is and say, hey, how's it going? Maybe that opens a door, or have your staff do it, because you have great staff. So, to say, hey, are you guys okay? I mean, it just helps.
Although I will say, sometimes I'm afraid. I ask that and they will tell me.
You have my phone number. If you have any problems with any district reappointments, I would like to know about it. Because
Currently,
I will talk to them directly and hopefully take care of the problem. If not, we will make a motion to replace them.
well, good.
Nobody's
Good luck.
invaluable and irreplaceable.
With that being said, as much as I wish we were at 30,000 feet, we hear about it all.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna preserve my last 2 minutes. I ask you. Can you, are you gonna be around or can be in on our Thursday workshop?
Got it on the schedule.
Good, because I'm not expecting it, but because I'm hoping our workshop, is gonna be as much about asking questions about, so that we know kind of what information, when it comes to these big projects, as far as the,
Fantastic.
kind of what we're thinking as far as the, kind of the taxing scheme is gonna be. And I would love to, it's not gonna happen this year, just because of the way the legislature is, but I do think long-term and this should be an issue, I think this would be something commissioners, treasurers, and assessors could work together at the state level, as far as I think we need some different way of, I'm just because I'm concerned about the way these projects have gone. I'm thinking of wind right now and the depreciation and what that potentially could matter in, because these projects, whether it's wind or solar, they are principally, and they are going to continue, they're going to be built in the rural part of Washington State. So we generally have smaller tax bases that they're a disproportionately big footprint in our counties. And I don't know, I think I'd love to strategize with you what you think would be the fix, if maybe there is no problem, maybe I'm fretting over nothing, but I've just always been worried about the, what I see, what appears the trends are with the, what that means, especially not so much for the county general fund or the county road fund, but for individual smaller districts, that they can, you got a project moves into your district, great, until it starts depreciating.
Right.
And
I think it would be good, I've met with you guys individually and together on, like how wind is assessed and just how like the whole tax dollar budget process works for how y'all collect your tax dollars and all that stuff. And I think that would be beneficial to have that discussion too, because, so some of the ways that districts can keep, the taxes low is just because you have $1 billion
right, doesn't mean you have
project come in, it doesn't mean you have to take 100% of your share of that $1 billion.
Right.
And then also just really quick too, Rob and I were discussing getting the resolutions and certifications from the taxing districts to the assessor's office. in an earlier time frame.
Right.
And one of the things that we're actually going to do a district education this year if it kills us. And one of the things that I am going to remind all the districts is your resolutions and your certifications for, your tax dollars doesn't have to be processed hand in hand with your budgets.
Right.
Because the statute requires those certifications to then be certified by you to me by November 30th. And if I had my ducks in a row, which we're getting there, and I had my certifications done before November, no taxing district this year would have gotten increase. None. Because I didn't get, none of them were certified.
Right.
But since, I'm behind on getting my certifications done, then it's been okay for everybody in the past, but we're getting better every year. And at some point, I'm going to be certified on time, and that's going to be a huge problem
Right.
for the
Because
taxing
they're used
districts.
to not having to worry
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you
Yep.
for being in on Thursday, so.
Yeah, I saw it and I'm like, okay, let's put down my schedule, even though we're up to here with levies right now.
And I appreciate Mr. Commissioner bringing up the problem you see with the potential for decreased values over time. That was a big issue during my campaign and something I want to get to the bottom of as well.
Yeah, that's like a really whole discussion. It would be
That's-
nice to
that's
just
yeah.
have a workshop.
I don't
where
know how
could
she's gonna
sit all you
piggyback
guys.
on Moshi without having her own little.
Well, no, she's not. That's why I said I'm
Yeah.
not. I just want.
I can do an abbreviated, hey, this is what they pay into, this is how it depreciates, this is how it's assessed
Right.
on Thursday. I've already started a quick little, blurb for y'all. But I think a future workshop with a discussion and kind of get down into the nitty gritty on, like Greg and I have been working together too, and it's like I used to say, well, what's your problem? Why are you worried? But because it's personal property is personal property. But when you take a look at, what it's doing with the rates and everything, and that it is.
That's why I really want to understand it, because maybe I should be worrying, maybe I'm worrying.
Quick question.
I don't need to, but I'm a worrier.
Let's
I'm a
say
worrier.
Knight Road, is that tax district 37? Do you know off the top of your head?
No,
No, don't know off the top of your head.
no, there's like 60 some tax districts.
Right, no. I know pump storage down there's connected into Goldendale for tax district 37. My worry is if you stick that one in there, we could have the deflated values thing that you were talking about.
Well-
Which brings up one of my concerns with my.
So what you look at when a project goes into an area, so like, let's say it was TCA 37. It doesn't just affect, so a tax code area is multiple districts
Right.
that creates that box. If you look at a project in a TCA, the county general, everybody pays the county general,
Right.
everybody.
Right.
So even though the project is in TCA 37, it's going to affect everybody in the
Right.
county. And this is something that I heard out there that people, weren't understanding. The county road is the same way. Everybody except within the incorporated cities pays into county road. Your EMS, almost everybody pays into EMS except your extreme east side.
So if I get what you're saying correctly, if there was a solar farm out there, if there was a pump storage there, and then 2 years from now, they never had to pay another tax, the people that were in that tax district wouldn't be held at a higher tax rate than the people outside of it.
Well,
They would be for the ones that were
Every-
specific to that district.
So
if
for
the
the
districts
school
asked for
School
that amount,
district would.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where I'm saying my concern is.
Yeah, yeah, and if you guys would individually, I know we have a thing scheduled, and if you guys individually want to come up and we can do, I know I worked with the commissioner in the past on saying, okay, let's say this comes in, this is what it's going to happen to the different districts or whatever. But I need
don't
a few
have
weeks
problem
time to
if
do
you
that.
guys want to have an individual meeting, but I would way rather have this on a Thursday, where, because the question you asked, I'm gonna go, well, that's a great question. A week from now, I'm gonna wish I knew the answer to it.
I would prefer it as a workshop as well. I think with everything we have coming, this is very important.
Our workshops,
I can't do any of this month, please, please.
That's all
You
right.
guys
We don't
want
want any
tax
more
dollars this year?
Please.
are our workshops gonna be Zoom meetings for the public too, do you know?
Well,
They are.
until we're open, yes.
Okay, good.
Any public is,
Yeah, anything at the public, it's
if
open.
we're meeting, it's open to the public.
It's open to the Zoom.
Yeah, or,
Well,
yeah, open to
Our
the,
little private meeting that's gonna go on the end of this month, when you get unbusy, we'll just make a workshop meeting, so.
Okay.
You just have to, let my boss over here know.
Okay.
What works best for me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Other
Thank
than
you,
that,
Krista.
Fantastic,
All
thank you.
right, thank you, gentlemen.
And when I find out what I find out tomorrow, I'll let you know, even though I won't have really any answers until I talk to them next week.
I'm gonna be curious here in a minute.
Thank you very much.
Actually, if we can put that tent up, and we have no issues, there's no potential liability, I think. You don't need board approval to do that. That's,
Budget, where do you get the tent, staffing, desk?
we don't have to have, they'll staff it when they come down. Somebody doesn't have to be there. all the time.
Correct, but you
We
know.
must
They're
have
already, I
some-
mean,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
I mean, we don't have
know.
a
Talk to
tent.
Public Works to see if we have a tent, if we have a desk, all those things, which is why I was saying, I'm not making budget decisions without the board's approval, but
I'll
I think for you
volunteer.
guys,
I might have 2 tents I can volunteer for.
I'd rather use a county tent just because it's not a liability thing, but I don't think it's a big deal. I mean,
I don't
we're
think it's a
talking
big
chunk
deal.
change anyway. But I think the people out there would like it. So anyway, sorry.
Okay,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon. We are gonna have a discussion regarding the governor's Healthy Washington Roadmap to Recovery. And our wonderful, health director is gonna enlighten us and, illuminate all, so I have no confusion over what is the newest.
Well, you have high hopes today.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, it's an aspirational goal.
I'm sorry to say you're going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, okay.
You do have Jeff King on there, and I believe Public Works.
Oh,
is there
yes,
too.
I see him, and so Jeff, yeah, well, Jeff can chime in too. And I guess between all of us, we're gonna try to have our best
And I
understanding.
might look like I'm on my phone, but I've actually got the roadmap thing open here. 'cause I got other
Okay,
things
yeah, I
open
always
back
have
up.
to have the paper. to
I'm not toying with Facebook or something while we're talking.
Good to know. It might be more riveting though. So as you know, the governor put out the roadmap to recovery last week. I would like to preface this by saying that they did ask for public health input across the state. I don't know that there was any health director that thought this was a good idea, including myself. I'm very frustrated by this guidance, and I just want to make it clear to everyone that I personally am not responsible for this guidance. We're just interpreting it. Because I think there's confusion occasionally that we actually put this together, so. I think that it was put together in a way, you know, they put us in a region, and I think there's definitely benefits for being in the region. One of the things they're looking at is ICU capacity, and so Vancouver and Clark County is one of the places that we do send our cases to be hospitalized if they require ICU care for COVID. So I think it's important that we do kind of look at what their hospitalization rates are in their ICUs, because that does impact our county. So in that, I can see that there's value in, you know, taking that into consideration into our phases. The rest of it, I'm just really struggling to get on board with. I think this is just going to lead to a lot of confusion. I had to read this document multiple times to really kind of understand what the metrics were put out. And how to be able to message this just to the general public, I think is a pretty tall order. Every Friday, they're gonna reevaluate the numbers for the previous 2 weeks. And then on Monday, we'll move into either phase 1 if we're doing worse, or phase 2 if we're doing better. So essentially, they're gonna have us flip-flopping back and forth with, you know, potentially what the openings are as far as what you can do with your time and what kind of businesses can be open and how many people they can have. There's absolutely no way to enforce this. Asking businesses to go back and forth on what their expectations are on a weekly basis, I think is absolutely asinine. I think that's going to be detrimental to our businesses in this county. And I have reached out to some of our representatives at the state level to additionally talk about what we can do in a county to reiterate the fact that this is a terrible idea. I'm sure that's probably not what I'm supposed to say, but that's where I'm at with
That
it
was
today.
not what I was expecting you to say, but I'm about to give you a standing ovation.
It's just frustrating. I mean, public health is so frustrating right now. And this is decreasing public confidence. Now you're like, what phase am I in? I can't tell you that. I can tell you right now how many cases we have in this county. I can tell you for ballpark, just off the top of my head, how many people have been hospitalized. I can keep track of that and I can share that information with you. But now you want to know what phase so now I have to, and it's not just me, I'm making it about me. Now I have to remember what phase we're in, what that means on your phase sheet. Oh, last week you could have 5 people in your commissioner's chambers. This week you can't have any.
Right.
Like, where are we at? We're setting people up for failure.
Right.
And we're setting people up to just completely ignore the rules, which, to be fair, most people are anyway, but that's not necessarily the point.
So, I don't know if you've looked at what Yakima County's done
I did.
and what's going on in the Yakima Herald. How do you feel about what their county commissioners are doing?
So I'm having a similar discussion. I'm going to caveat for just 2 seconds. I'm having similar issues with the way they're rolling out the vaccine. I'm also frustrated about that. I feel very angry today. I'm not usually this angry. The state's imposing these, statewide restrictions that aren't applicable to our county. And I think Yakima going in and saying, we're going to take care of this ourselves. I think that's good. But at the same time, are we going to shoot ourselves in the foot? And we've had this about the vaccine rollout. So we're currently vaccinating people who are considered phase 1A healthcare workers. And based on the conversations I've had with the community partners with Skyline and KVH and North Shore, they feel like we're getting towards the end of vaccinating all the people that want the vaccine,
Right.
that apply under phase 1A. So then do we as a county decide to move to phase 1B and start getting the vaccine out? As in my personal opinion, not my professional opinion, we should. Do we move ahead with that as a county, or do we follow the state, because that could potentially decrease our ability to get vaccine in the future because now we're not compliant?
Right.
So there's a lot of fine lines, there's a lot of gray area. I don't know that I disagree what they did, because I don't think that wouldn't be a good thing for our county. I think there's a lot of also bigger picture things that we have to consider before making a decision like that. But I mean, I just don't like being tied to 4 other counties.
So back to the vaccine.
Yes.
Do we know that because I said it this morning, I mean, I'm as frustrated as you, where it makes no sense to me that I am tied, if we're trying to get the vaccine, because I don't know if you're prepared, I don't know what, we know what we got as far as in stock. Do we have an idea? I hear, but I have no hard numbers as far as what we vaccinated, but the impression I'm getting is that we've pretty much exhausted our 1As. It confirms what you've said, and yet we are now waiting with vaccines sitting on the shelf,
Yes.
and we have 1B folks that are ready, what we could move into, but we can't because the state won't let us. If we follow their guidance, we're all going to move as a region or as a state, whatever, through these phases. And so I had mentioned this morning, that's something, what authority, understanding the downside that could happen, if the local board of health said, we're moving forward, we're just going to release the vaccines that we have. I'm assuming the downside is that we're out of compliance, we won't get any more vaccine. And so it's like our whatever doses we have, yeah, we got those out, and now you're going to go to the end of the line. Is the punishment basically for doing it, because that's the only thing that prevents me from saying, If we've gone through the list and we've got all our A's done, let's move on to the B's.
What
And if we do all the B's, let's go to the C's.
What percentage of our A's are accepting the vaccine? Do you know that?
I don't know that. I
That
can't.
reads my mind every time I want to ask him.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll think slower.
That's why when he first started talking, I'm like, he's gonna say it, he's gonna say it.
Yeah.
but, yeah.
I can't speak to that only because we had a basic idea of healthcare providers that were in this county only based on how many people were employed at KBH, how many people were employed at Skyline, how many people were employed at wherever I work, the health department.
Oh,
North
that
Shore.
other place.
That other place.
Across the street.
No pressure, no
Yeah,
pressure.
that one.
The evil empire. So.
But there's a lot of people that are healthcare providers that live in this county that do not work in this county. So I can't speak to percentage wise what our uptake is, but I think we've had around 3,000 doses in county so far. I believe roughly about a third of those have been given out as 1A. So
And that's the first dose.
that's the first dose.
First
Yep.
dose. So
We won't
if
give,
we wait long enough, we can use the second dose on them, right? So then we'd be.
which should be starting next week.
So if we have 3,000 shots on hand, you said we've put 1,000 in somebody's arm already? Interesting, that's a bigger number than I thought.
But it's still,
And
it's
that's
about a
not-
third,
Planning wise,
which
we
is
need to make
consistent.
sure
Mr. Chairman?
we keep as many
Yes.
behind to give the second shot.
Go ahead, we had a,
So- Well, that's okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman.
oh, there you go.
This is Jeff King with Emergency Management.
Yes.
If I understood correctly, yesterday KVH started giving the second dose to people.
So we have some second dose.
Yep.
21 days.
Okay, so it's 14 on one and
Yeah.
28 on the other.
It's 21 and 28.
Is it 21 on 20?
So
You got me.
Okay,
So even so, if we know we've hit most all the 1A that we're gonna get with the first dose, if we subtract out the second dose, that still leaves us 1,000 shots just at KVH, right?
no, that's
Or that's
that's the
county
county
wide.
total.
That's countywide.
Yep.
that's 1,000 doses of,
Yeah, but you're still, like I said, you got to plan for the second shot.
Right.
So you got to hold it back in the rears just to make sure you got it, because you never know when you get the next shipment.
Right, but
So
that
you
gives
still got
us,
500 people, yeah.
but that's
But
still allows 500 plus more that we
Right.
know we're not
Right.
gonna need.
Right.
And everything I'm seeing is that everybody's getting yelled at because we're not getting them out fast enough.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so if we start getting them out fast enough, the only thing I think we need is a pat on the back.
I honestly, I think we've done better than any other county in the gorge based on the feedback I've gotten from other counties. So I just think we should definitely appreciate the hospitals, and both hospitals in North Shore have really been the ones that have been doing the doses. We unfortunately just don't really have the capacity with our case investigation rate right now.
So let's say 3,000 doses that we were given, was that given, oh, hey, here's these because it's for the A people? Do we know when we're gonna get more? Is there a plan for distribution?
No.
Is there, you're just,
No.
you're waiting for the UPS truck to show up with your
No.
Amazon package?
Yeah, that's exactly what is happening. And at one location this week received a shipment of vaccine they didn't actually order. It was sent to the wrong place, which is
Well, you
just,
just-
I mean.
Did we keep it?
we keep it.
Oh, it's
That
not,
was my
it's not
order.
leaving this county,
The
but
most dangerous words are up from the government and they're here to help.
that's
so.
very true. So I just,
okay.
there's just been an insane amount of challenges. It's just been roadblocks from the state level. And to plug my own political agenda, this is exactly why I am against, the states really working towards that health district. So there'll be more state controlled and more regional. And this is exactly why we can't let that happen. Because we'll just end up in scenarios like this over and over and over again.
So Eric, are you saying that you guys haven't done you're not giving any doses out?
We are.
Oh, you are?
We
So
are.
You do have that ability.
We do, yeah.
No.
But we were just doing smaller clinics. So, we're doing 10 or 20 where they're doing 100 or something like that.
For the people that are tuning in on the phone, can you maybe quickly go over who is qualified to get the shot right now today as we speak?
So right now we're focusing on phase 1A. So those folks that are high-risk healthcare workers, first responders, anyone in congregate living settings that, like New Hope Farms, and we
Right.
made sure that they were all vaccinated. and anyone who works in a healthcare facility.
Now, when we talk about first responders, we had a question about first responders earlier on whether the 911 dispatchers are actually first responders or not. Would they qualify for getting a shot?
The guidance is facing interactions. So if they are showing up at people's homes and having interaction.
If they're not having face-to-face, then no, but volunteer fire that could go face-to-face would.
Yeah. And we felt in this county that even though I think firefighters are in a later phase and police officers, we felt in this county that frequently those are the folks that are first on scene. And there would be a lot of benefit in our county to including them into that
So that
face-to-face
wasn't part of the
healthcare workers.
governor's thing. That was something we pushed here locally. Well,
Yes.
thank you for
Right,
that.
and that's one of those things I'm saying is I'm wondering how much latitude we can exercise without, like for me personally, and I'm not speaking for the board, this is just me. I'm saying I'm willing to push to the level of, I don't want to fall off where I'm going to get us punished, but I think it's a credible thing to say, oh, we've only used a third of our doses and we're waiting. We're going to just move forward, and I think that's very credible to anybody. It's like, and if we do end up getting punished, it's going to be really easy to go and say, hey, that's foul. And I know there's got to be other folks in our situation that are thinking the same thing.
I would like to do the same, but I'm afraid if you get punished, you actually killed somebody.
Well, I know, and that's, I'm saying, I don't want to take us to getting punished. But I do want, like, we made a local decision that in our case, law enforcement is the first responder. They are, and we're going to go ahead and vaccinate them. To my knowledge, we're not going to get punished.
I get your frustration. It makes absolutely no sense to have vaccines sitting in a refrigerator waiting for somebody up in Olympia to get off their hiney and sign a piece of paper.
So you might be more worried about getting punished and somebody dying. I'm more worried about not doing something and somebody dying.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a shell game of either way you're screwy.
I don't want anybody to die, and I don't want anybody to get punished, but I think if we wait for, it's like.
Well, here's the question. We're talking about waiting for guidance to push us to the next level, since you're saying we're essentially done with the phase we're in.
We need to go to B's.
Have we tried to pick up the phone and argue and say, why are we not going? And we're just no answer, or where we at
I have
there?
not called yet.
Nobody's
I knew I was
called
going to
out.
speak with you all, and
That's
just
step
from a
one.
political standpoint, because there will be politics with this sort of decision,
Well,
like to know
right, there
that
will
I
be.
had your support yesterday. I talked to the hospitals because I
Right.
wanted to make sure they felt like they were done with the
See,
1A.
there we
So
go.
I've been
Although,
doing
don't
my
you feel
homework,
like that
but
cover needs to come as much as possible from the Board of Health versus
Probably.
the county commissioners?
well,
I mean, I know, but
Four of us are sitting here out of the five.
I know, but it's, well, no,
Well, yes,
no, we are not.
It should be five.
It's only three now.
3 out of the 5 because
Three
I'm
of the
not on
five.
the board.
And I don't know that there is, and the health officer, where it's like, to me, that would give, the Board of Health should be completely divorced from politics. It doesn't have anything to do with politics. And if the Board of Health is saying it makes sense for us to, this is what we want to do, is that we're done with our A's, we still have all these doses. Our recommendation is that we move ahead to the next people on the list, which are the B's, and let's go.
I agree. I just don't want to hold off the phone call until the Board of Health gets together.
Well, no, they're getting together next week, but the other thing
Right, but let's
is,
make a phone call this week.
so I'm absolutely expecting different guidance to come out either today or tomorrow from the state, which is gonna just.
More
so-
shell game.
Yeah, so on the news this morning, they talked about the CDC or whoever has the vaccine. They've been holding back the second doses and they were gonna just allocate it out in small batches just to make sure that that's taken care of. So a decision was made for them to just push it out. So that would mean to us, there's more doses coming. And with that, potentially changing who's on what phase, which is just another PR nightmare, because what I told you this morning
Is now
is
doesn't
now
matter.
completely defunct. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
Were they supposed to get the second vaccine, or, God, I screwed up. I used the word vaccine. To me, a vaccine is, you will never get the disease if you take the vaccine. I call it a treatment measure because you're still going to get it. It's just going to be light symptoms. Anyway, data out. 21 days or 28 days. I mean, is that like a to the T? You need to be here in 21 days. If you're 25 days, it changes the effectiveness at all? It's,
No, you
it's
can be,
really
you
not
can
a
be
date.
late, you can't be early, so.
So where I'm at right now is you haven't made the phone call to see if, hey, we've done our stuff, we want to move to phase, 1B. The only downside of that is they say, oh, you have extras, send them over here, and we lose them. I don't think they're gonna do that,
We
so I'm
lost
not
them
worried
in
about
voting,
the
actually.
dance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so we made the phone call, yet
Yeah, I
they're gonna
misspoke.
come
We
out
don't
with new
have any.
guidance tomorrow that's gonna change everything.
Potentially. that's what I was
Potentially
told.
change everything. We're gonna be in here on Thursday. If there's a big change, we'll get to hear about it, discuss it. We've got a Board of Health next week. If we can move on to Ways Fund 1B before next week, and all we need is a small little push to do it, I don't have a problem.
Well, that's why I was trying to
pushing.
authorize the phone call now, because we can't take action on Thursday.
I don't think we need a motion.
No, I mean, I
She
can, I
make the
just,
phone call.
like, I'm not gonna make unilateral decisions without.
Right, well, that's why I was trying to
already-
ship the guidance today.
Yeah.
But if we
I
can ship the guidance on Thursday, that's fine.
I did see Jeff shaking his head a while ago, and I have no
Oh.
idea what we said that made him shake his head.
All right, unmute yourself,
Yeah,
Jeff.
yeah,
and-
yeah.
So I just want to circle this wagon all the way around.
As far as this specific subject goes, I'm okay. I was shaking my head in frustration, just as Aaron is, and all of you, with certain. But yeah, the state is allowing vaccination phases to move forward at a statewide level, and that is inappropriate in my professional opinion. I will go that far as the emergency management director for this county. That is not appropriate to serve our citizens.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so did you guys get that email about what Yakima County commissioners are doing?
I did. I only looked at it a little bit. I wanna understand what I mean, they're just basically taking a position.
Right.
They don't have any authority one way or the other.
Yeah,
Right,
and I think they're just,
making a statement. Are you saying you want to make a statement here? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying we need to discuss it. I understand where the Yakima County commissioners are coming from. I understand that for every political action, there's some sort of blowback. But I also understand and agree with Aaron that the Yakima County is in that same thing. They're saying, we need local control. We know how to manage it. We're not stupid. Let us do what's best for our community and our county and our people. Just going along with the health district, the big health district idea from the state, do we use this as follow their suit a little bit? Maybe soften it a little bit, but make it very clear that we like our individuality here and how we do things here, and that we have full support of our own health director in the direction that she's going.
I would say for me, I'm fine. I'm always gonna be about local control. I don't want, because I think this has been used in the past, I don't want this used, if we took a step for that is the county commissioners or the county saying that all of this is a bunch of baloney and there is no COVID, you don't have to wear face masks, this is all this is all a hoax, this
Is that
is all.
what you're asking, Jake?
No, he's not. I'm just saying. No, I'm not, but I have seen this used. No, I have seen this twisted.
I'm not.
I have seen things, and I'm thinking as an example of, I've had conversations with the sheriff.
Yes.
The sheriff is not, at least my interpretation is the sheriff generally is not saying don't do, it's more about local control, and it's not. But I also have seen post after post after post where people are using that, twisting it to say this other thing. I can say for me as a commissioner, I don't support that. As far as I actually believe in this, I believe in the guidance from the CDC, but I also believe, I think our citizens understand that, and they will do the right thing. It's like, I'm not complying because the governor told me to comply. I'm doing it because I actually believe in that kind of stuff and science. And I think that's the health department's, I'm following local guidance and expertise as far as what measures need to be taken. If we can do it in a way that is about local control and people have brains in their heads and they're going to do it and have it not get twisted into political, frankly, crap, I will do it.
Tell
So,
us how you really feel.
get me there and I will
Right,
support
me
that.
reading that, it comes off kind of twofold. Number one, it comes off what Aaron says, we don't need, Olympia or Clark County determining our health policies here. And Dave, 100% agree, local control, just like Aaron, boom, and then end it. We don't need to get into the political and any mask wearing or any of that. Just get into the health board decision of local control over a health district.
So my
I'm
question,
100%.
my question is that something we put forward or something the Board of Health puts forward? Where is the proper point for that so that we make our frustrations heard and understood?
I think that would have to be taken up with the Board of Health if whether they, all members, wanted signed on to something like that.
Because
I'm willing, but each one of them would need to be asked.
I hate to say it, that's a political statement, no matter how you put it.
Very. And I need to be clear, like, it's nice that the state is like, okay, here's these metrics, but there's a lot of mitigation to do. Sometimes it's nice when they're actually like putting together the metrics that we're like, hey man, the state said this, there's a little bit of deniability there.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this county on its own, not in a region, is really what we're looking for.
Right, that's the big,
That's
the
the
big
thing I'm
picture.
having. So
Because
like,
that's a long-term thing, where
Yeah.
these are two different things.
Yeah.
The COVID response and all that is, God willing, is a short-term issue that is going to, we're going to emerge out the other side. Regionalization of, health districts and all that stuff, that's forever till they change their mind. But that will have impacts way into the future. Really bad
Yes.
things, and I agree as far as so I think that my real worry is that where they said they took input when they were, State Department of Health was, it pretty much was universal from at least talking to folks around the state. Local health folks were all opposed to it. So it was like, they took the input and it was like, thanks for your input.
Yeah.
We're ignoring that all, and this is what we want to do. And my concern is, if there's going to take legislative action, if they're going to do something, it's going to be in this year when it's going to be really hard to try to educate legislators on why this is a bad idea. And I'm really worried it's just going to happen because we've already said we don't like it, we don't want to do it, and they just did it anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm looking at this from, it's easy for us to deal with this. We're involved in it every day. What I worry is that as last I heard, we're really close to being able to hit phase 2 in terms of the numbers. We were a little off in our region. Clark County's doing well. We hit that for 1 week. All my restaurants go out and they buy supplies and they get ready to open.
Right,
And
Absolutely.
then
Right.
Friday comes around and then they say,
They're gonna
nope,
have
you're
week.
shut down. Well, I guarantee you, those restaurants are not gonna let that food spoil again.
No, I mean,
And we
it's
can't
people
expect
too,
them to.
right? You brought all your staff back. Now you're laying them back off. That's
Right.
inappropriate.
And so at some point, I mean, there's gotta be someone with logic up there in the governor's office. that's
Good
gotta
luck with
figure this
that.
out.
Yeah. I mean, you go to phase 2, nobody's gonna go backwards.
Well, we've done it once.
Well, it's true, we did, but you know how that's working, so.
No, I agree. And I always say that about all government. To me, all government, it's the same thing. People want to follow the rules,
No,
whatever it is. If there's general, people don't follow rules because of fear of being punished generally. It's because things make sense. They do it voluntarily. You're not gonna, it's the same thing
Right.
but you are going to make people not follow the rules because you're making it impossible, and that undermines all of it, because then when we say something and we want you to do this, they've been conditioned now to not follow rules because they just don't trust any of it, because we flip around all the time.
Exactly. And this set of rules is impossible to follow. The metrics are impossible to follow. I just, they put us in a really, really bad spot, and I just think any pushback we can give up in Olympia would be very much
So-
appreciated.
For direction, would we be asking Aaron to work up some sort of something we can send to Olympia as the Board of Health that says, look, you know, who knows how many times it'll change between now and next Thursday, but at least be working up something to show our frustration with this situation.
Right, and I think we can do it in a way that's not necessarily attacking it's like, I get it. There's folks and we can all say they're all a bunch of idiots, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say that. I'm not. I think sometimes they are so focused on their little piece of it. Like, I think some of them really do have the best of intentions. They don't understand the practical implications, or the practical implications on the rural part of the state, where it's like, that may work okay, and I get what you're trying to do. I don't think anybody in Olympia is trying to bankrupt restaurants. They're not trying to, that's not the goal. They just don't understand that what you're doing, that is what you're doing. And that you need to understand that, find a different way. We all have the same goal. We do. Everybody has the same goal. Everybody wants as many people to be as healthy and not die from this or get sick and not destroy. Well, it is. And it doesn't have to be where it's like, you're the enemy because you're wrong. It's like, no, I will accept what you're trying to do. It's just that this isn't doing it. It won't work. And find a different way. We've got to find a different way.
You have higher hope. 'Cause we're 9 months into this and they ain't figured it out yet. So I've kind of lost hope that they're gonna.
But I don't think that I'm sorry. Yes.
I will respond when you call on me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I am fired up. So.
As the Board of Health, you guys need to have that discussion, as well as hear from your public health officer and see what her recommendations are as well.
And I'm sure Aaron would talk with our public health officer before that and hopefully have something for us that we could move.
Do we want to, and I don't care either way, just throwing an idea out. Do we want to have her write it up for the Board of Health, or do we want it coming from the commissioner through the Board of Health?
It would
I
go
don't know
from
that
the
it
Board
would
of
make
Health
too
to
much
the
of a
commissioners.
bigger.
Right.
run
Although the
enough
staff to the
forward.
Board of Health is the same person.
Right. True.
And is that what you'd like to see?
Now,
Aaron?
even with this resolution, have we, I guess I'd say, figured out when we're making the phone call to see if we can distribute vaccines or not. I still would like to see that phone call happen, I don't know, before the Board of Health meeting next week. But
Yeah, no,
No, I mean, I think we can reach out. Any of us can reach out, because again, it's not.
I think it would be less political coming from her to reach out.
yeah, no, I'm
If we
happy,
did
I
it,
can
they're
absolutely do
gonna
that.
throw political into it, and I don't think it's a political question.
Dan, don't you know, we've given you enough homework this week. Delegation, my friend, delegation.
Well, that's what I said. I think I would personally love it, if she would make the phone call on our behalf on whether we could throw out the vaccine, and then we have an answer to
Not
that.
throw
next
it
week.
out.
Or, well,
Not
yeah.
throw it out. No.
Yeah, we just be clear.
Inject it carefully.
Yes. Move on to the
Get it
next.
into people's
Again,
arms.
we're not asking to really go off. We're like, we just are ready to move forward in the plan that we all kind of came up with. I'm not attacking their plan.
Yeah, so if she
I
could
think
make that phone
B,
call,
C,
bring
D,
it
I think
back to
those
the
are
Board of Health
probably the
next week,
right.
that'd be great.
Make sure you wait a couple hours so that we can all come down from this meeting to a normal level.
The crazy thing is, you guys are all fired up more than me, and I would have never thought that.
It's been really frustrating that
All
they
right, Jeff?
continue to change the rules. And, you know, we're the messengers, we're getting shot, and I'm tired of getting
Right.
shot.
Right. Director King, I see you unmuted and shaking your head.
Yeah, I was going to say something else to start, but I'll agree completely with Aaron. We've been taking slings and arrows for a long time now, both public health and emergency management, for things that are completely outside of our authority, let alone our control. But I would like to just make sure that, for a point of clarification, I agree completely, first of all, that we need to move forward in the vaccination distribution as a county based on when we, are finished with whatever phase and ready to move on. However, the number of vaccine doses is not our only limiting factor. I just want to make sure everybody in the public that's listening, I know the board knows this, and of course Aaron, but the staffing to be able to give, a certain amount of doses per day, and that's part of what KVH has reached out to emergency management for help with. And their concerns are, we have the actual qualified, trained people to give that shot in the arm. So those are two limiting factors. I don't want everybody to just think that if we do get authorization to move to the next phase, whatever phase in the future that might be, that we'll also have the staffing and the logistical ability to do that, en masse. But we are working towards that, both myself and KVH, and I know Skyline as well, even though they haven't asked for our help yet, as well as North Shore Medical. They're going to be starting some of that. I just want to make sure everybody understands there's two factors there.
And I think we, as we discussed this morning, I think we appreciate that, but I do know that again, at the local level, I know either with volunteers or others, we can rise to what we need. Like, I'm not qualified to do, but I am qualified to direct traffic or take people's names, and I know there's other folks that would step up and help with these shot clinics to, because we do, the trained folks, we want them preserved to that thing that they can do and not waste. Like, I don't want nurses out directing traffic. That makes no sense. As far as let us dumb people do that, and or calling and making appointments for people to come in to do, that's something I could do that. And I know there's other folks.
Great, because that was one of the things.
I already said that this morning. I said that this morning. I would volunteer.
Great.
And
We
you
have
might see them
50 people on the line that apparently care a lot about
They
this
do.
county, because they spend a lot of time, and they might be willing to
Right.
volunteer.
And I would say our county, the volunteer rate in our county is huge
Yes, it is.
compared to other counties. So I don't personally see a problem.
And Board of Health, Emergency Management, all you guys have to do is put out one Facebook post saying, we need people to help us with the vaccinations, and I'm sure you'll get a whole lot.
We'll probably end up getting too many, so when you do make the post, you calm it down, because you'll get too many helpers.
Right. So
What a terrible.
What is
thing
this
to have.
calling thing you guys were kind of discussing quickly, if I may partake in?
call in.
You said helping making the calls or something?
Oh, no, I just need
No,
somebody.
she wants someone to
in my
answer her
office.
phone. I was talking about because I'm assuming, there's folks are making appointments to come in, and I said, when we were reaching out to our list of A's, because I am curious about that. How has that worked as far as, I'm assuming lots of A's knew they were A's and contacted their provider or whoever. But I think there was also some other, going the other way where it's like, hey, we haven't heard from you.
Yeah.
And you're eligible, and are you going to take a vaccine or not? And so I know that's got to take staff time to do that from these, either KVH or Skyline or whoever. I don't know.
We're getting pretty well inundated with calls. Our call volume over the last 2 weeks has increased to a rate where my staff have asked if we can't find some additional help to cover that, just because everybody wants to get on the list. There is no list. I want to make that very clear. We're not scheduling appointments.
Right.
Initially, we just said if you called and you said, hey, I want the vaccine, and I said, what's your age? And was that, and you're like, well, I'm over 70. And I said, you know what, we'll call you when we're ready. However, that got out of hand really fast. So now if you're not a healthcare worker, we're not scheduling people as of now. So we're trying to get people to not call about scheduling, and just keep an eye on our Facebook and social media so that when they see that it's in their category, then we'll help people make appointments when they, qualify under the next phase.
I need to point out that that's specific to the health department, because KVH is making appointments currently on Mondays and Wednesdays at least.
We're making appointments, but for phase 1A, as is KVH, they are not
Right.
making appointments for the following
Just general, the
phases.
next.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of the hospitals, both health departments in North Shore are taking appointments for people that fall under phase 1A and the tier 2, which is anyone that works in a healthcare setting.
How many of the shots do you think we've given our health?
In our health department?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Probably, what did they do last week? Probably 50.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about how we're doing in terms of testing? Because I see that the testing percentage is something that's on one of these requirements. Are we testing more people this week than last week? Where is that going? Because you could test a whole bunch of people and you could bring your number down, or you can only test the sick people,
Right.
and you
Your
can
number
keep your
goes
number
up.
high.
Right.
So
There is that.
how are we doing? Where are
We don't do testing, so I can't speak specifically to numbers as far as, KVH, Skyline, and North Shore do
Yeah,
testing,
you
and
haven't
I don't
talked to me about
have,
it. Okay.
I don't have their numbers just off the top of
No,
my
you
head.
could,
We
just
tracked,
wondering, you could extrapolate it though from those weekly,
yeah, it's on
the
the
numbers
COVID,
that we get, the totals. You could kind of go back and look and see,
which is gonna be a
is it
ballpark.
ramping up or down, or what are we?
Yeah,
That
I
doesn't
tried to
include-
figure it out, where the per 100 were
Right.
going, but then there's a dropping off, and there was too many variables to get it, but.
And that's why I said for those numbers, we just look at the states because they have they get all the negatives. Like even if it's a negative, it still goes to the state. So if they got tested in, I don't know where, Kansas, and they had a Golden Dale address, it's still gonna go to Washington State, but I would never know that they got tested because it's negative. So we just, it's supposed to come to us. It doesn't always. There's delays in getting them from other counties. That's been a challenge lately, so.
We'll have an update on where we're at on Thursday for the BOH. We'll know those numbers.
Yeah.
I can wait.
But
Can we-
they're on the state website, the
Commissioner
COVID.
Christopher, patiently.
Oh, I'm so sorry. They're on the state dashboard.
No, I mean, technically I need a permission from the chair, so I'm just trying to be,
Right,
but
that's good. I
it's
appreciate
kind
it.
of funny. Anyway, I have to try to remember my question now. Can we kind of go off topic? Do you know if anybody has used, the last time we actually used the trailers at the fairground?
Yeah, there's someone there right now.
There's somebody there right now? And how many do we still have up there?
3.
3 and 3. I thought we were down to 2.
We're about to be.
In the price, or
It was in there.
that 700,000 that we had that got extended, are you still using that money to pay for those trailers?
No, because they were using the Department of Commerce grant that supported them.
Okay, and we still
That
have money
extended
for
till
it.
June. Yeah.
So this, for the people out there, this is not coming out of
Our funds.
our taxpayer funds ourselves. It's just
It is.
Our other taxpayer.
well,
Yeah.
it's COVID funds.
It's totally taxpayer, but not from this county. That's
Right.
just so
Yeah.
yes, we still use those.
Okay. Anybody, I want to be, what do you need from us right now?
Just
More than what you have other than beating the bushes and
that's mostly what I need. But
shaking my fist, which I'm calmed down now.
that's honestly really
You have our support.
what I
which
need
that's
from
good.
you all is the fist shaking.
We can do that.
Okay, great. I'm excited.
I'm good with that.
Jeff, anything you want to add? What do you
Not-
need?
I'm not on this subject. You've supported me all along, just continued support for Emergency Operations Center activities and staffing. And yeah, as far as vaccines and the new phase metrics, nothing on the health side. Just to state that my reading of the roadmap for activities phases does not indicate that we as a county government, anything has changed for us. That is all the same guidance. And it specifically says in the proclamation that any activities not specifically addressed in the new plan are subject to the previously issued guidance. So it's my assessment that as far as how we act for our employees, public health benefits, how we conduct ourselves related to COVID precautions hasn't changed because of this new plan, and it won't change in phase 1 or 2. but how we serve our public, our citizens and residents of Klickitat County through county government, I think there is some latitude, as we heard in the last discussion with the assessor. We still have some latitude in that, how we serve the public while continuing to do it based on those health guidelines, taking the proper precautions.
Thank you. Anything else before we move on? I think you're good.
No, I'm good. I mean,
Good enough.
I could,
She's wondering why she took the job you offered her, I think.
I do that sometimes, yes.
That's okay, so do we. At least I do. About myself, not you. It's like, no, I never.
All right, well, y'all know where to find me.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was.
How did we get, I thought we were good
How
other
did we
than.
get there? You got fired up. That's
Yeah, I
how we
did,
got there.
sorry. Okay,
Poor Mr. Gregg.
yeah, Mr. Treasurer, are you, oh, he's outside.
He was on here for about 20
And then he
minutes.
gave up and came down with all the fist shaking.
Was he not online watching it too?
Oh, he was for most of it.
we should.
I saw him on.
Yeah.
You could see.
I'm not sure I got the best seat in this whole program. I was like, whoa.
You could feel us winding down, so he had to come down.
I came down about a couple minutes ago and I thought I'll go over there and kind of wait till you guys are like, oh, it went a little longer.
As I said, I
Yeah,
thought
sorry, I
was
apologize.
you.
You know, the problem we're gonna have though is on Tuesdays, it seems like every elected official is on this thing, so I don't know what they're getting done during the day or watching us.
Well, I think most of them just have it on in the background. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily watching.
Not my problem. What's that? Not my monkeys, not my circus.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Whenever you're ready.
You guys simmer down, ready to roll.
I'm simmered down.
Okay, welcome, or good morning, or good afternoon, commissioners. I can't even keep track of what time it is. So I'm here for my post or every other week update, I guess. So we have been meeting the finance committee about March, got together as we were trying to get through the COVID thing, and we got on a pretty regular schedule. And so I have been updating the board every other the following Tuesday after our meetings. And so this is our standard meeting. And I go through and I give an update of the items that were in the meeting and then anything else that's in the treasurer's office, and we go from there. Oh, sorry, guys.
We're trying to model good behavior.
No, I know. I gotta be careful because I
I
can't
know,
see so
I know.
much out of my glasses.
I know.
And so if I start veering off, that means I can't see.
Okay.
So
I forgot my glasses today, so I can't see anything.
a little bit of background before I get too far into the report, just to let you know, we have two new commissioners, and I know you guys are well versed in different county pieces. In the treasurer's office, I did count them because I was just curious this morning. There's about 50 different county funds that we manage investments and cash for. There's about 50 different districts that we are the treasurer for that are separate from those, that are cemetery districts, hospital districts, port, any public district in the county that we do cash and investments for. So we service a wide variety of folks out there. The finance committee is established under the RCWs of the state of Washington. Up until March, we had traditionally met quarterly, and sometimes maybe more if we felt there was a need with the board chairman as needed. And in March, we had kind of got to meeting and trying to figure out where this was headed. Again, back then there was so many new things we didn't know. And so we met. The committee, the finance committee is the treasurer, is the chairman, the elected auditor is on the committee, and the board chairman is on the committee. And it's basically a great for us to be able to have a discussion about different, so that things come up, we get the auditor's perspective of different things, the treasurer's perspective, and then the board's perspective on different pieces. So it's kind of the three legs of the triad, so to speak, or the financial pieces of where they're at. This last meeting, we went over a couple things. One thing we did do is we reviewed the schedule, whether we wanted to continue meeting with a new representative of the board and a new board, whether we wanted to continue meeting on the second and fourth Friday of each month. We agreed that we thought that was a good idea. We feel that there is some good discussion going on just day-to-day kind of things within the county or different folks. The auditor does service a lot of the districts we serve for different pieces to doing payrolls and APs. So we felt that that was good to continue going. So we will continue to do that. We reviewed what we call the parking lot items from the previous year. So last year we had, when things would come up, if it wasn't something that we got too far into, we'd maybe kind of stick it over. We went through that list and kind of saw what was out there. One of the things that's on the parking lot that we are going to talk about at our next meeting is the finance subcommittee that we used through the COVID funding to try to kind of manage getting all the funding back from the state. We discussed, and I'm going to give this, I have been taking things to the finance committee as to kind of get their thoughts on. We talked about the 2 resolutions that are in the back that I'm going to talk about at further length about for our tax title sale. Rob asked for some time and he wanted to kind of run by Brenda and myself and the board before he brings it to the board for other pieces to talk about the schedule of the budget for 2021. He would like to try to kind of get it a little earlier. And so he kind of wanted to see, and if there was things he needed to kind of do before we got there. So we had a discussion about that. I think we all were in agreement that we thought that was a good idea. Krista, who was here earlier this afternoon, was hoping, and she mentioned the November 30th and trying to back things up. As the treasurer, side note, we by statute should get the levies, I think the 15th of January. So then we'll work on doing the tax assessments and everything. So we're eagerly awaiting for our time to move on. So we talked about that. So Rob will be working on that. Let's see. I brought the draft reports for the cash flow to the group and we had a discussion on that. And I'll bring that up further down. The auditor had brought up that we did a Kayenta upgrade that has been really challenging. And we didn't really go into a whole lot of details other than she's had some trouble getting the payroll things working. The system has kind of had some clunks, but she did bring up that everybody's been working really hard trying to get the pieces going, but that we're having some problems with our financial system. And Commissioner Sauter asked that we update some numbers related to top 10 taxpayers, what it technically is, but wind farm revenues or top 10 taxpayer revenues. So we can look at revenues over, I think we put it together here about 2 years ago. And so update that so it has all the information on it. We set the next meeting for the 22nd. And that's pretty much about what happened at the finance committee. I guess at this point in time, I've always, if you have other things that I didn't get in my notes, which I can sometimes talk and forget to write things down. So is there anything?
Greg, this is great information. Can you email this?
No, that's fine. So the other thing is I did run our collections through the end of December. We collected about 98.1% of the 2020 taxes. So I'm pretty happy about that. I would have not thought that that would have been where we would be sitting in March when we started down this process. So now we're on to a new year.
How many people ended up using that new program?
I want to say like 24.
And were they happy with it?
They were. A lot of people were, we have this with a lot of our tax. So we have offered payment plans since I've been there for taxes. We traditionally have always done it for prior year taxes. But they kind of get there and realize, oh, I got to stay current and I don't, they kind of have other challenges. So they were happy with it for the most part. I think, we got a good take rate. I think it's just more of everything happened so fast. By the time that was happening in March and we got all the way through in April, we're trying to get things brought out to the public. It was just a lot to go on. But I would say we got good feedback. And
were any of them businesses?
Yes, I want to say, most all of them, I think, were businesses or folks that, were on the business program. And we even had a couple that had missed the deadline. And so we helped them get going. And, because we had said we wanted to put them on there right on April. But I will say one thing that we did do when our payment plan, and back to that, that payment plan we did for the whole year. There were other counties out there that tried to deal with each piece independently. And I think because they thought, oh, we're going to be done by, June. So I think that was a little bit of good on our part, little foresight that we got them all taking. So once they got on that payment plan, they were headed down the path, and we got them, which I think is part of the reason why we have such a good payment rate at the end of the year, because we were able to get folks going and headed down the right direction and get them set up for success in the beginning rather than getting to the end and go, oh, now we got a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Dan, do you know what he's talking about with that?
Let's just say part of that, maybe even pushing the most of that, but not all of that.
So what he did is, back in April, he moved real fast, or March, moved real fast and created a payment plan for all these businesses that were suddenly cash strapped to the extreme.
Right, to not have to pay all of their taxes.
And it's one of those things that you did that was absolutely amazing, that didn't get enough kudos to you. That really helps.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that it was one of those things, I think, like everything, you'd like to go back and do it over, because I think we were trying to work so fast. And one of the things that we did is we tried to layer it. So, in the beginning, it was like a 10%, then 20%, 20% to get them ramped up on that.
Is there, you mentioned how many people took advantage of that. Do you have any kind of an idea on breakdown is in commissioner districts or something?
No,
I don't know that I heard anybody over here. That doesn't mean anything that I didn't hear of anybody over here using it, but I just think we have a different business clientele over here.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really look at it as far as what geographic location or in different areas. I just was looking at it as trying to keep our collection rate as high as possible. Right. But yeah, I could look into that.
No, if you don't know it off the top of your head, don't waste your time.
No, I don't.
Don't waste your time.
Not aware of that. REITs, one thing that we talked about, and I want to apprise you guys of, and I brought this to other meetings, and I hadn't looked at it last week. I've said, gosh, we're busy. Our office is really busy. Yes, we're close to the public, but we're processing as much information. And actually, I should say this, we were a person down. We did bring a new person on board on January 4th, so we're fully staffed, by the way. So we're pretty happy about that. Working on training now, but it just seems like we've been really busy. Well, I went back and looked at the numbers. I had said that September we had our most REITs we'd ever processed, like since I've been treasurer in 2015 and keeping track of it. Then I could go back. I didn't go way back, but just the numbers I had put together. We had the most we processed was 148 in 1 month, and a month is not a calendar month. It's a 30-day period based upon how we report to Department of Revenue, but it's equivalent to a month. And so we hit 162, and we'd only hit 148, I think, once before that. And usually we had been in the 60s and 70s and maybe 80s. And we hit that 162 number again in October. November, we dipped down to 134. And in December, we finished the month at 183. So we're processing more real estate transactions than ever before. The last 4 months have just been unprecedented. A lot of those, 90 of the 183, 97 of them were sales. The rest of them were maybe doing a train, where there's a $10 fee. So you're not there, which the reason I bring that up is because it's not generating excise dollars into the capital fund and the communications fund, but those monies are up in 2020 or were up. So we are processing a lot of tax or a lot of real estate transactions, and we'll see if that continues into 2021. Cash,
we see too. It's a companion number, but our number of building permits and stuff too are they still way up too? So
yeah. So it's one of those where you're going, gosh, it seems like we're just cranking them out, and they just come through, and we've got a pretty good process. The Dropbox we have out front has been working, and we do a lot of them remotely with firms. Most of them are through the two title companies of KCTC and AmeriTitle, but we do a handful through many different law firms and different title companies that are around. So yeah, it's just, it keeps going. And I don't, you go back and you're like, God, I don't remember that it was that busy, but it must have been. And so, yeah. Going through, yes, I will email the cash flow report. The cash flow report, I want to go through a couple things with it. This was kind of started in March when we were trying to figure out where we were going, when we weren't sure where the cash was going to go, whether we were going to have enough cash, where we were going to be at in our different pieces. And we were trying to figure a way to try to come up with that. And there's some, just like anything, this has its pros and its cons, but I think there are some good information in here. One of the things that we will do in 2021, we need to go back and pull out investments. So there's a couple funds that have investments. So if they look like they're over invested, if you go to the 502 fund, I think there's an investment categorized in that. And because the way we do our investments is it's a purchase and a disbursement.
You scared me first because I was looking at
Yeah.
I was like, well, where's all the money?
No, and so there are investments. So we're going to break the investments out. But we were trying to just get a handle on some cash of our major funds, specifically to the general fund, because we have traditionally, I think, and this has been something that when Glenn was here, he kind of was the one who kind of kept track of that. And I want to say we would end the year at about 90% of expenses, which would give us some extra cap room or some extra cash. That equated to cash flow. And so that kind of gave us operating cash moving into the next year, but we weren't really sure where that was going to go. And it, like say in March and April, we were like, okay, we couldn't tell whether they're going up or down. And so we kind of put this together, and I'm going to make some changes, but I think there's been some good information to come through it. One thing to note, this is specifically cash. This is not fund balance. There is a slight difference between fund balance and cash because we do accrual budgeting and we do cash, and we have some pieces that go through. And I wasn't prepared today to go into a big, huge, long piece. That is a conversation I think we need to have one of these days. But for right now, there is some discrepancies. The other thing too is that we, in the county funds, are going to have 2 open periods. So if you get an invoice that is from December 25th, we still have 2 periods to be able to pay that into January that will go back against the budget for 2022 or 2020.
What is today?
What do you,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, what are you expecting? We're sitting there, you know, like at 88%. Are you thinking we're gonna hit with those 2 periods, 90, 92%?
I think we're going to probably end up in the 90%
Okay.
area. Yeah. I think we're going to be back to where we were. I think it's going to equate, you know, I mean, the thing is that we're right at, and that's what I was going to say is we're ending, the general fund's going to be at about 100% of revenue, which we thought we're going to be. So we're going to be the key that I took away from these reports when I looked at them was we're not going to start 2021 below where we thought we were going to be at. We're going to end up being okay. Where we ending up better? Probably not significantly better. Worse? No, not probably, just kind of where we thought we would be at. We were able to get ourselves back to where we were. Some of that's due to the COVID funds that came in, you know, that were reimbursed from the state. Some of it's through to lack of, you know, revenue may be down, but expenses are down, you know, no travel. Some of those are small dollars. Some of them equate. We still had, I mean, real estate being up, that's, you know, pushing some of the funds up. And so there's a lot of pieces that we're still moving. So I think the key is when I look at the cash balances, I don't think anything looked alarming to where it's like, oh my gosh, we're really in deep, you know, this fund's really in bad shape. I think we're going to end up to where we can try to go with our 21 budget and we can work from there. So those were the things. These are the listing of funds that I have put together. These are just some of the biggies. I have no, if people want to see another fund on here, if you guys go through and you want to add one, I'm good with that. These were just, I just put on the general fund. I used a couple of road and ER&R funds, some senior services, communications, emergency management, and public health, and 125. So that's just, there's no part to there. We then went into a breakdown on the 4th and 5th page, or 4th, 5th, I didn't page number. Starting at page 4, that's a breakdown by department in the general fund. So if we were curious where some of those, you know, where the 90% came from or where we were at, that was trying to go through there. We were using that kind of earlier to try to predict where we were going to end the year at, trying to go, okay, we're a little lower. So that's just a breakdown. So it comes through from there. And then the pages that I kind of find helpful are starting with the graphs. And again, these are, you know, we have 50 funds. So putting all of them together. We can do them digitally. That's something too. And so if people want to see them, but if you look at the general fund, as we start to go through, this is just data back to 2015 of how the general fund has moved. It moves very trending. You got to remember, we're going to get our taxes up in April because that's when we're collecting tax dollars, and it's up in October because that's when we're collecting tax dollars, and otherwise we're kind of moving through. So it seems to kind of flow according to where it should be. Dave, I did try to change the blue line that was on there to purple.
I see that.
So I had to.
We had two blues. And
we had two blues, and
they were
bad.
like azure
yes,
and
yeah, and ocean blue.
Yeah,
it was kind of.
Yes.
So I was like, oh. But
I wasn't sophisticated enough to know the difference.
It was hard to figure out which one was which. You're like, hey. So some of the fun. So I mean, these are just informations that where we are. If you look back at the the road fund, for example, is ending at a high. I mean, where we are. But I know Gordy's come in and talked about projects they have coming up and how they plan to use that. Right. So those are but those are things where we don't have anything that's diving off to the bottom and headed out.
Do you have anything
But yes.
that you're worried about that we need to be paying attention to on here? Because so far, what I'm seeing looks really good in terms of people staying within their budgets.
Yeah, I mean, the cash is I am concerned a little bit with 2021 as we go through, and I think the board is aware of this too, is planning, for where we see this going. I know we got our first landfill payment, so as the landfill goes, and that's a significant cash piece. The fourth quarter is actually a 2021 revenue because we don't receipt it in until January. So we're able to look at that, and we're able to see, and we're able to go back and look and figure out where pieces are at. And so, I think that's going to be a tough hill to climb to get to the number that we have in the budget. But I think that there's some other things. I mean, we'll see how long the real estate piece goes. I mean, that's another up that we have. You guys had a good discussion about where we're going to go as on the society side, and whether things are going to open up or not, and how we're going to go. So I think it's too early to tell, but I think the tools that we developed in 2020 are going to help us continue to move through. And I think being able to have the finance committee meet on a basis and be able to look at these reports and get them to you guys as we're going through and adapt to things that you guys have questions to and add to them, I think that's going to help us make sure that we're successful in 2021.
So with regards to being at 90% or whatever, it looks here, we've got health ran down to zero here.
It's $599, but it looks like zero.
Yeah.
So we had a discussion about that.
So can you talk to that, like health spent the money, but health also has a huge amount of money that they just didn't bill for.
Correct.
Right. And so if we've added the income in from there, what would that do to our cash flow on here? Because we didn't bill it out. We're not going to get paid until this year, but it was for everything that was from last year.
Right. And from an accounting perspective, it really doesn't. I mean, we are a cash county, so we care what day the dollars come in the door.
Right.
So as far as health goes, to that point, they have a line of credit for $700,000 to the Fund 125. To be able to, because they have a grant, a corresponding grant, I guess, or however it would be. Aaron would be the perfect person to talk to. That because they have these dollars, because they have some dollars.
Today, not so much.
Yeah. I told her when she was leaving, I said, thanks for firing them up. She goes, oh, you're welcome. But so because the grants are reimbursable. Right. So you have to spend the money in order to get the money back. And so they don't have the operating cash flow. If you look at the Fund 137, which is health, the way health has traditionally, the cash has gone is they get funded in January actually get funded in January. This landfill payment that comes in, they get their allocation and they get their infusion, and then they just kind of go all the way down, and then they come back up at the very end of the year. It's in the grass. That's the one nice thing about that. I think this year with some staffing changes in different pieces, I don't think some of the normal grants we got back where we wanted to. But I also believe that there's some other pieces with the COVID where she had higher expenses. So I do know that she has gotten additional revenues. I do know that they are working on trying to have somebody come into that area and do an audit essentially. And I think that will be helpful. And so we'll keep track of that. I haven't seen any receipts recently, but yeah, we that number, and we also didn't pull more money to put her back to where she needed to be because it is an interest-bearing line of credit. So we're pulling the money that she needs to keep herself above to be able to pay ourselves back once she gets the reimbursement from the state. So I don't know the details of her reimbursements of where they're at. But I do know that she has a $700,000 line of credit that she's working on.
So in terms of that interest bearing, let me make sure I get this straight. She's drawing down she's gonna have to pay the reserves back with interest.
Correct.
Using these grants. These grants are able to pay on the interest, I hope.
Yep.
And so, because otherwise we would have that reserves invested somewhere, probably making little to nothing on it.
I was just going to say, I'll be honest with you. When I came into office, I think we were at 19 basis points or 17 or 20. I don't remember. The number was small in 15. We made it up to where we were at 2% or 2.5. I
Really
think.
getting to be some real
And
money.
I think I haven't looked at the new one, but I think we're down into this.
That's what I was gonna ask you, is what it was at today. So
I haven't looked at it today,
that's
but
why I kind of got excited when he started talking. I'm like, oh, he's gonna ask this same
Yes.
question again.
No, so the thing is though, back to the interest, we can't provide interest-free loans to departments or to funds, even though it's all the county money. The BARS manual states specifically, and there's a whole long section in there about, Brenda and I have talked about this, the auditor, that we can't provide interest-free loans. And so basically, if we put it back in there, and the good news is that if the health department gets these funds back and those that can pay the interest, which it will, that will go back into 125, which is a fund where the commissioners have the ability to designate as needed. And so if people come or there's other things, you guys, that puts it back into your coffers. And I think that the one positive having been the treasurer here for 6 years, I go to treasurers conferences and we don't have problems like other folks. I'm just going to be really honest. We aren't doing, I've listened to lots of conversations on road diversion. I don't need to know about road diversion. I need to know
diversion.
Yeah, we do it from
It's the other direction.
I tell people that, they're like, you what? And I'm like, yeah. So I think what we don't want to do is we want to make sure that the funds are all becoming stable. And we're able to manage them with the monies needed and that the board can use those monies. So if we do get the interest back, then that's available for you guys to do with it. So it is an interest bearing, but I think the way the term sheet was written, I want to say it's a 12-month average of the LGIP, which is going to end up to be essentially not much.
So the interest we're charging her isn't more than the interest that we were gonna get from that in the
Correct.
first place.
Yep.
Well, that's too bad. We can't
Yeah.
take that money and
Right.
make
Extra little
something
extra
off of
little.
it.
Yep.
Don't you have an administrative fee?
Well, we've talked about changing it and we didn't change it. That's another thing that in my mind, I would like to bring back to the finance committee at some point is, if we had to go to a bank's going to charge us a higher number. And I personally think it's kind of, if one fund does a really good job, you want everybody, you want to try to balance everything together. It's all the same pot. So there's arguments on both sides. So it's a good discussion to have. But, if we had to go to a bank and go to our bank, it's Columbia Bank, well, we use Columbia and Umpqua. But if we had to go to either one of them, I guarantee you they'd be at least at 2% for a line of credit. But we haven't. We stuck with that. That's a method that was put in play before I was the treasurer, and we've kind of kept with it for consistency purposes.
So our $6.5 million in emergency dollars right there. How secure is our emergency reserves that we have invested?
Very.
They're very secure.
It's in the state investment pool.
That's all.
And,
Okay.
there's there really isn't, and it's very liquid. And so, that's also plays into your numbers. So, there's things that I think at some point we need to look at, but I think right now stability is the number one thing. And I think we're in a good spot. And I think that we're good. And I think that it's safe.
That's all I wanted to know. We're on the
Yep.
same page.
Do you know this? Oh,
No, go ahead.
go finish.
No.
Because I don't want to get us.
I just wanted, I wasn't really gonna go through every graph. I figured you guys could read through them, and if you have questions, I'm available to answer and go through. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I like the.
Yeah.
Mostly with pictures.
And I
What
just
was
want
your
the
question?
record to show, when I showed that picture of what happened with health, I'm not coming down on Aaron at
No.
all on that, saying what happened here. I'm saying you've done a great job in the middle of COVID, and you've got our support, at least
Yeah.
my support.
No, I think it's worked out, and that was set up as a draw. So we've only drawn, I think we've taken 2 draws, so we're at 100 and some thousand. But it's not set up to just pay interest on the whole thing. We're only using the money as we need it, and we're gonna pay
That's
it
why
back.
that fund balance.
That's why
is so
that
low.
fund
It's
balance
just
is the.
whatever it needs to be to make sure.
Correct.
All the bills got paid.
Did you have a question?
I can do it. Well, actually, I guess I will. You may not have the answer to. It is more, it's back to budget related, is we know, we got our first quarter payment, landfill payment, which was good.
Correct.
I mean, it was over last year's pre-COVID, which was good, but as we all recognized, our budget number that we put in there was a
Tall ask.
tall ask, which it didn't meet it as far as that. It exceeded what it could have been, which is good. I was trying to think, I was looking through stuff because I was trying to decide who do we short in the budget, because the budget allocations are, so much here, so much there. Well, you run out of money before you get out of allocations. Do we have a set policy on that? Because I'm thinking we just decide, because in the third quarter, when the number came in way under the shortfall, we kind of just decided.
Well, what we did was, and I'll be honest, when the money came in, we went by cash flow, and we really looked at which funds needed the dollars and which funds didn't.
I know, and I'm not saying we did anything wrong.
No, but I'm just saying we did it kind of based upon
more,
that, knowing we had another, or in July, knowing we had October to kind of figure everything out. We don't, Rob and I are working, he and I kind of talked about that, like, okay, how does this work? I'm like, well, Glenn has a sheet that we've done in the past.
Right, that's what I had asked
for.
for.
We need to put this, so we'll be putting that together, and so that it'll lay it out as to how that works and what that is. I think there's pretty clear pieces. I don't know that I think the general fund is one of the ones that kind of gets shorted at the very end.
Yeah.
Or 125.
Because I was looking, because I was thinking, well, how much of a shortfall do we have over
It's about
budget?
200,000.
That's what I was thinking. It's not a huge
No.
number. It's not. And again, that's the 200,000 of the goal that we knew we could meet, that if we could have, we had planned on covering it out of the reserve,
Right.
Planned, and then we said, no, it was easier to just leave it that way and we'll deal with it.
Right.
So it's actually performed pretty well. So who knows? Maybe we'll get there.
Right.
That's a.
But
that's a tall
no,
order.
Rob and I are going to work on putting that together and working collaboratively on getting that sheet together so we can have that, because that's one of the pieces that goes through and listed out quarter by quarter of where the dollars are going to go. But traditionally, in what I've seen, it's either 125 doesn't get, because they have cash flow in there, so they've gotten their number reduced. It doesn't mean their number for the whole year goes away or changes. It just maybe moves it from the January payment to the April payment, or however that would work. So,
but I do think that's something that once we kind of figure that out,
Setting
the
up-
board needs to make that.
I can't argue. I think that would be a
Because
great-
I think in the past,
then people would
I think
know
in the
what's gonna
past,
happen.
decisions just kind of got made, and I think that's telling that I didn't know, because I wasn't the one. We were not the ones making the decision where it went or didn't go.
I
It just
appreciate that.
No, it is, because it's when I had talked to Rob yesterday, it was like, I can't find that we ever made it, well, for one thing, it happened so rarely. We've had in the past where we didn't meet one quarter's target for whatever reason, maybe only by a few dollars. But the inverse was true too, is that we've had quarters where our revenue was more than we had budgeted for. Was the same thing. It just sort of went in. That's what was the unallocated. It just got kind of thrown in a pot,
right?
An interest bearing pot.
Sure.
till we could figure out what we were gonna do with it. But I think that's something that I think what we've done in the past was right. I mean, I think the decision, they made sense. I just think the board should be the one.
Oh, I agree. And I think there's some stuff that got funded in certain times that when you look at the graphs of the cash of where things are at, I think we could look at that and go, okay, well, maybe this one could slide over here and this could happen here. And that might help out some transfers and some other kinds of things that we have to do. So it helps the greater good out instead of like, oh gosh, we have this shortfall over here. Well, that's a self-inflicted shortfall because we could move some of their funding up a month and push this out or however it works. So yeah, I would agree. I think we need to put that together and we need to bring it back. And yeah, I definitely,
just like I know we had, last year, the plan was the $800 and some $1,000 shortfall, we were just going to transfer it out of the emergency reserve. And then when everything all sorted out, we didn't do that. We didn't need to do a transfer because we ended up better off, partly because we were so underspent in our.
And I think that's what happened. And that's where those charts came from, was in looking at it, we had to look at not only we were losing revenue, for example, let's say that we're, short on sales tax or something, but then again, and
if
different counties
expenditures
had
were short too, then
why exactly. And
really
it was very interesting as the treasurers, we kind of have a group that we talk to, and different counties were some counties were experiencing record high sales tax because people couldn't go to the other counties to do their shopping. So they're doing their shopping locally, and Amazon's having to pay the tax to where the delivery is. So some counties are like, and again, that's a east side, west side kind of thing. It happened more in the east side. So there was some really interesting things that happened that it's like, oh wow, because some people would be like, oh, we're down, and we're like, and other people were like, oh, we're way up, So it was definitely interesting, or how people travel, when you get maybe up towards the Wenatchee area where some of those people from another county come over, just different interesting things that came through. So we really tried to look at the revenue and the expenses and the difference in order to try to figure out cash flow. And I think we've done that, and I think we can revise the reports and kind of get to where we want to be. Any questions on that or anything on those pieces? No, you're fine. I do have one more piece on here. The last 4 pages on there are the resolutions for tax title. And there's a resolution for a surplus sheriff's sale. So we traditionally have done our foreclosure sales, which is the only thing I've done since I've been here, in person, and we have a live auction. And I think we've done them most every year. We might have missed one year, but for the most part, we go through. We usually go through, our collection rate's high, and usually most all the properties that we get, when we get down, we have usually less than 10 parcels that are there. It's usually bare land. When I came in 15, I think we had a couple of properties, and I believe that they are down near the bridge area that were on a hill. That there was a nuisance abatement on, or some kind of piece, and they went tax title, so the property didn't sell. One of the things that we would like to do is go back. Those properties that are tax title are held by the treasurer in trust for the districts that are owed the taxes. So it's not county property. The county did purchase one of the pieces of property that was tax title, happened to be where the new bridge was going to go. And so essentially the county just paid the fees as they bought it there. So then that made the districts whole, hospital districts and fire districts. And so then the county then took title, and that property moved into the name of the county. The other ones are actually, say, Klickitat County tax title or tax title Klickitat County, however it works. We would like to go back out and put them out for bid again, or out for auction, and try to run them through an auction. Most of these have been out there for a while. They would go out. It does require the way the RCWs work. I have sent these resolutions to the PA for just a review, because this is not something we do regularly. But we would need to, the board would kind of approve that the minimum bid would be, and that's the minimum bid, what we have in here. And I'm bringing these to you today because I'm hoping to have discussion and then bring them for the consent agenda next week. If there's any questions or whatever, I can go back and work on those. But essentially we would sell 8 parcels that are tax title. Some of them may sell, some of them may not. Our hope is that in the future, we would be able to do a tax title. Maybe if a property doesn't sell 1 year, the following year, we'd have our normal foreclosure auction and a tax title auction. They would have to be on the same day, but separate, advertised separately. And then we could just keep kind of rolling through these properties, because sometimes it just, something happens, who knows? I will say some of these properties are properties that had nuisance abatements, and this goes back to a commissioner, the commission's challenge with, we do have nuisance abatements that we put on, and we put some of those fees on. The fees have been so big, it's driven the property to where nobody wants to buy it. So then we are stuck with that as tax title. So so the one that says in the matter of sale of certain tax title properties, that's the one for the properties that are tax title. They have, they sit in tax title. We would like to put them out. We will be using a company called Bid for Assets. We did, that's where I started to go. We worked with them to try to get an agreement, which we have. We have it, and it would be an online auction, because we can't, we don't want to put all the work in to say, oh, we're going to have it on a final day, and then we can't, like you said, we might be under the 5 people, we can, however. So we're going to just do it online. Lots of counties do this in the state of Washington, and lots of counties use Bid for Assets. It's a very common one. So that's the one resolution that I have. The other resolution is a parcel that was acquired through seizure, I believe, by the sheriff's office. And it's surplus. They want to sell it. They want to put it into the drug investigation fund that will go into there. So we would actually essentially have 2 auctions. We would have our tax title auction, and we would have a sheriff's auction, or a surplus sale auction at the same time under the same platform.
Is this the property right on the hill?
A Lyle.
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
On the left.
And
By the speed bump.
Yes.
yes, there's that one. And then the other thing is some of the other properties on here are the ones which I think we should maybe get the natural gas company to dial in, because it's now we all realize you can take out the natural gas at White Salmon and Red River. But anyway, so that's at the bottom. There's a house on that as well that we have had challenges with people. So we just want to put it out and get it. And if nobody comes back, we still retain on the tax title. We still retain it's still tax title held in trust for the districts, and we'll continue to do our thing. But we want to go out and throw a net and see what we can get. And we think we can get rid of most of these. There's a couple of little small parcels next week on the consent.
I know. It's so much in a hurry.
So the only question I have on that is are we positive that land where that house sits wouldn't be needed for staging or anything for the new construction of the bridge? That's the only thing I think about is are we going to get to that point where we're sitting and starting?
That's a Gordy question. I mean, I know Gordy and I looked at all of the parcels that were there, and we everything that went out into the river, because obviously we have parcels that are underwater out there. So all of those those were part of the purchase that he had. These ones are the ones on the other side of the road. I don't know.
I think we had determined, because that was, we kind of went through that exercise with public work, because we said we wanted to hang on to anything that was needed
that aren't here.
But the stuff north of the road, they felt like no, that we could divest of those.
Was can't even think of the name. The grade road over there, is that property?
Dock Grade. Yeah,
that's the 137 number.
No, that's the one in Dallas, or that's one in Lyle.
Oh,
I think.
Huh?
Oh no, maybe it is. I'm not looking.
Are these auctions going to be live bid, or is it going to be sealed bid?
Nope, it's live
So
bid.
the second one is the sheriff's property.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And that's the one in Lyle that
Yep,
was.
that's the single one right here, and it's it says in the matter of sale of surplus.
Thing, right?
It was gotten in a seizure.
Right. So
And-
the one I'm thinking about is on Dock Grade.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's the one at the bottom of the first page, or if you guys held on to that.
The only parcel that we have held on to that I can bring a map to next week and bring in here is the parcel that's on the south side of 14 that goes underneath or around where the bridge is. All of that. There might be a little piece. Yes. There might be a part that crosses the road, but I can't remember how those parcel lines work. But whatever was associated with that, we kept all of that, or,
It's
you know,
just
we
parcel
purchased that.
numbers, it's kind of hard to remember.
No, it is. I can bring a map. I will.
No, you're fine. I just knew there was a 5.5 or a 5 acre on dock grade, and then there was another one right there close to it, right off 14.
So
So I was just curious which one that was.
Yeah.
where's the money go, like when the minimum bid is based on what's currently owed to those junior taxing districts, right, or whoever? The money above that, does that go into what fund?
That goes back. So here's, so in a foreclosure sale, when we're doing normal foreclosure, anything above and beyond the bidded or the property that we are selling for the whoever owns it, what we've taken over. That money goes into a trust account, which was one of the accounts that I have in my budget that we hold to for 3 years. And it's basically the money goes to the person who owned whoever was the title owner of, so they get any excess money.
Okay.
If they don't come and claim that, then that goes to the general fund. 99% of the time that gets claimed and they get their money. When you do tax title, the property, the way the RCWs write are, we go to the current year so this will happen in 2021. We'll go to 2021 for the levies that are in that TCA, and we distribute all the funds to the taxing districts according to the current year levy process. So we'll have a document, so money will go to the hospital district, like for White Salmon area, will be the hospital districts, which if it's in the city or not I don't know what the TCA is, if it's 2 or not.
Right, but if there's only, say, $1,500 on.
The total amount
for 150.
The 150 gets divided and goes back to all those.
By the ratio of all of
And the
them.
county is one of the
Oh,
beneficiaries.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Road and Fund 1. Yeah.
And we're the beneficiary because somebody's now paying property tax.
And we get it back on the tax roll, and it's not, we don't have people saying, oh, well, that's the big thing. That how people are, occupying the house and they're not supposed to, what are you gonna do about it? So this way here, it can get it to be somebody else's problem. And Bob has a name to go visit somebody about.
That's not Greg.
That's
Gallagher.
not or Gordy.
Or Gordy.
So the only thing that I do want to bring up on the sheriff's one is we have the assessed property, or we have the minimum bid as the assessed value of the property. In talking to Mr. Cannell, there's 3 approaches. One is to set no minimum bid. One is to set the assessed value. Actually, I guess there's 4. One is to set the market price, and the other one is to kind of agree on something maybe in the middle of those, I guess. We have it set at the assessed value. I know that we're wanting to maximize the dollars for that for Bob. I am going to go, this was kind of some stuff that we've gotten in research. So I was going to go validate with Bob and kind of say, okay, this is where we're at. Is there any, assess that? Basically, if we don't get a bid for that, we wouldn't be able to sell it for that. So there is some parts of that.
Is that, I wasn't around to know, I know it was a drug seizure, right?
I don't know if it was a cook.
Yeah, does that
That's a-
house need to be torn down?
We sell it as is. Where is it's the buyer. The buyer has to deal with whatever so I don't know the answer to that.
But if it's a livable house, it's gonna go for well over that. If it's the tear down, you're looking at the cost.
Have you seen this house?
I kind of know where it's at.
I know we get a lot of
view. It's got a great view. It's a great residential property. It's just very, very small.
So you're gonna, yeah, exactly. You're gonna be tearing it down. So you subtract that price off of the land price, because these online auctions, everybody in the world looks at them.
So let me understand though, if we set the minimum
at 79
and
we don't
we
get a
only
bid,
can get 75, we can't accept it.
right? So the question is, do we want to ratchet? Do we want to set a minimum of nothing, or do we want to set a minimum of another? That's the kicker. And I am going to go visit with Bob now that we kind of have it, because again, we've never done this is my first time of doing something like this. So my first time of doing a tax title too. So it's kind of, everything takes longer because we're trying to figure out and make sure we're up to speed. And our goal, by the way, on these is to have this, like towards the end of February. we would have to give the proper notice time, but it's not like foreclosure, where foreclosure, we have to go through all the steps put in the RCW to notify the folks of the different situations.
And Bob gets 100% of that, right?
That goes directly to the investigation fund.
So I think.
Not Bob personally.
No, yeah.
So my personal thought is as long as we're gonna do a good job marketing this, I put it at 0 and let it, and watch the people pile in.
Our hope is to probably spend some money and put an ad in the paper and do an ad on the radio to let folks know we're having both of these sales.
My opinion of the matter is the money's going to the Bob's fund and Bob's account, and I'm gonna do whichever way Bob wants me to do. Just win or lose on that one, I don't want him mad at me because I chose the wrong way. They got less money. At least it's his choice to get less money if he ends up getting less money.
Or no money.
Or no money.
But if
Speaking of
it's-
signature, I'm
But I
looking at-
also don't want to hold that thing for
another year.
If
Right.
it was a cooked in and we're liable for people.
Right. Then get what we can and get out.
Lee, were you raising your hand?
No, sorry, no, you're not.
Okay, anything else?
The only other thing is we're just watching the legislative process and kind of waiting to see. And, as it seems that it's going to be very interesting, and we're hoping to end up with fees and penalties sustained. That's a large portion of our county budget. And that's my thing is if, as commissioners, we got to work I think that's a treasurer and commissioner. I have passion for it, but you guys are the ones that get the dollars in the general fund. So, but other than that, no, I don't. I think we're good, and I don't have any other questions. And if you guys have any questions for me, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Any more questions for the treasurer?
Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Craig.
Yep, thank you.
I see it's sticky, but Jacob didn't do it, so.
Well, we'll just smack it.
Okay, I'm just.
He missed.
Yeah,
wanted to
Oh,
say
yeah,
that.
up in the
So it looks
report
good.
chart.
Got it.
Okay, prosecuting attorney, I don't know, are you still on?
Yeah, I don't have any report right now.
Okay. Any questions for the prosecutor? Doesn't sound like it. Thanks for sticking on that long. I'm sure this is riveting television. Okay, well, we can go back. We need to pay the bills still.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to pay the accounts payable in the amount of $463,750.53 and the combined payroll in the amount of $831,055.36 for a combined total of $1,294,805.89 for the date ending January 11th, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pay the bills and the employees. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Aye, motion passed.
To make a motion for a bathroom break here pretty soon.
I do have, actually, we could recess for a minute because I got one fairly short thing.
I would give you a kiss on the forehead if you
Okay,
did.
let's do that. Let's recess for 5 minutes. We're gonna be in recess for 5 minutes.
Let's
For,
take a sign the rest for you.
okay. For a personal break.
Much appreciated personal break.
Lee, did you pause the recording?
No, I didn't.
We can do that, or if we can. Here we go. This is a good time to check.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, we are back in session. We are under board pending. I did have one issue I had said I would bring up. I did get a call. You may have both been approached as well from the PUD from Brandy Myers. They were having their board meeting today, and they were hoping. She was hoping that we would have a conversation about not, because the issue over the COVID dollars is that, was settled last year. But they do want to run kind of a round 2 on their business
Yeah.
forgiveness program somewhere, you know, and I had asked for, okay, what are you asking as far as,
Are they asking for state money or are they asking for?
no, this would be our money.
And they're asking for money, they're not asking for our help.
They're not asking for our help, although they may ask for our help too, I don't know. Her ask was not, would we consider contributing towards that? They're looking at, because I'd asked for some, what are you asking for specifically? That program, if it's like what the first one was somewhere that they expended about $60,000 on that program, and they would expect kind of the same, probably something in that level. And I said I would bring it up with my.
And this is for business relief, not personal people relief.
Not personal.
So this was, I helped Brandy set it up. What it was if you have a commercial-based business, they would waive your meter fee and they would cover 50% of your electrical expenses up to $1,000 per. And then if you're a home-based business, they would cover 30% of your electrical expenses up to $1,000. And it was supposed to be for 3 months and it got extended to 6 months.
I remember
and it was really, we had a lot of signups. We had a lot of people that were interested.
That's where I'm going, is you're looking at $60 and how many people?
60,000, and I think we had about 100 and something businesses that were signed up.
So you were.
Not everybody used the full $1,000. You know, there were smaller home-based businesses that, you know, their electrical bill wasn't that high when you take 30% of it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it went really well. I'm assuming that we are in the exact same state that we were then. And for the PUD, what they had in order to make the whole thing work is they were going to use their own dollars. And then what happened was BPA gave them some sort of a discount on one of their like small charges that amounted to about $60,000. So it didn't end up costing them anything out of their budget. It was something they were expecting to spend for something else.
Right, well, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Why are they asking us for money when they have their own money?
Well, because I don't think that's the same case this time, is my assumption.
Right, and it may be something, and I'm just throwing it out there, if we were gonna consider, based on that information too, that was basically 100% reimbursed for them, that they wasn't out of their budget. This won't be.
This won't.
But it will be also, if we're helping, it's 100%, we're not getting reimbursed either, it's ours. That maybe, you know, for me, the only thing I would consider is maybe we split this, you know, where it's, if there is, you know, if they're talking about the program costing 60,000, that if we were going to contribute, it's like we'll match dollar for dollar for
me. That would need to be the minimum for me to even consider it.
So the other thing that I used it for, so we were running multiple business grants. I created that economic injury survey at the time. We were using all of that information coming in to try to work with our businesses by, you know, it was good information we're gathering, and we were using these checkpoints. If you want money, make sure you apply. You have to go through the survey. Then I was able to piece it out, and I used to give the commissioners all the information. If we're going to invest, I would hope that we would manage it again, and then we would get an update. So we'd have a good overall picture of where our businesses currently are.
I guess then I would throw out another question of workload on a department that's newly staffed. Do you want to throw that workload on your replacement who needs trained? And
it wouldn't be a replacement, it'd likely be Richard.
And
in terms of
Dave's taking off from his stuff to help over here, and you know more about the inner workings of that department. Do they want that workload thrown on them?
And I think that would be a good discussion to have. I mean, I'd be the one setting it up for him and everything again.
And I'm not saying I had just committed when I talked to Brandy that I would bring the issue up to kind of gauge the.
Like I said,
because
I'm not a huge fan, but I could in time be talked into it.
Well, I think it's
When
the,
you call in, they're talking about.
and we're talking about you. And then the other question would be, if we were gonna do it,
And
where's
it's
the
over
money
here if you
coming
wanna
from?
come
Right,
too.
and that's kind of where I'm looking at. If we're looking at,
Okay,
I don't
thank
know.
you.
There's a
Thanks,
lot
Kevin.
of,
And the other
Everything's
thing-
gotta be paid for.
And the other thing we can say is we'd be willing to do the vetting again. You're welcome.
that's where I'm at. It's,
But I think another good thing is we could have Brandy send us the list of who they helped, and we look about it and we think about these businesses and do they need the help? Right now, they've got PPP version 2 going. Of the businesses that we put in for the Working Washington 3.
What did you say to him? He's running over there.
You're
We've got-
spending money out of your.
He runs
department.
faster than he zooms.
we're giving you more work.
We've got the Working Washington 3 that helped out some businesses, but only about half of them that were on our priority list. So, you know, there's a lot of businesses out there that are hurting real bad right now.
I fully understand that.
Yeah.
You
But we're-
also have everybody with their hand out and you can't just stop dropping money in everybody's hand.
Right.
Yep.
So there's.
Because the
kind of
money, I
a-
mean, that's
you know,
that's really the bottom line.
We're
is that if
already
do
gonna
it-
start having budget discussions here real soon.
Right.
Which is that much less budget that we get to spend on our own project, whether that's a food giveaway or anything
The
else.
best question is
Because we
now
just-
that he's here, we can ask him what hidey holes of money does he have that we could use for it?
Right, but it's still, you only have so much money in a year, and is this gonna be your pet project? Versus, you know, someone like me, I would rather, if I had, say, a 30,000 split amount of dollars to throw at my pet project, it wouldn't be this. So we have to pick our pet projects with the limited funds we have, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
And the other thing about our pet projects though is that most of them have to come out of a fund
Right.
that.
Well, I'm not
Used
saying
for
this is a
certain
pet
things.
project, I'm just saying that we only have so much funding to go around, so.
Surprise. No,
So
I,
I was listening on the.
Oh, you were? Okay, so you did-
Before, but I hung up and
Oh.
then you started talking about me and my ears are burning.
Bernie, run over here.
What's happening? How may I help you?
I had committed, I talked to Brandy Myers at the PD last Friday, I think it was. And said I would, you know, they are gonna run their business, what was that called?
What, the rate?
The rate, they're gonna
Yeah.
do their, you know, kind of 2.0 on that. They were looking if the ask was the county would the county consider participating in it?
Mhm.
And participating, I took to mean dollars
Right.
beyond that, because we never got into the, you know, helping out staff as far as the vetting, doing it as we did in the first go around.
If they're going to continue, I suspect they will ask if we'd like to help in the same way we did with the last round.
Right. So there's that question as far as staff time in a department that's down a person right now. And then the second part of the question that's not exactly relevant to you is that if we were gonna participate, then those are we have to get the money from somewhere. And is that something we wanna do?
I don't have it in my budget.
Well, that's always your answer.
I guess I would say, that's what I'm thinking, trying to find a lot of answers. My first question is where are you in your department, staffing, training? How bogged down are you to take on another project of this nature? If money magically fell out of the sky and landed on somebody's head.
Well, I think Jake would be a little bit more for Commissioner Anderson, would be a little bit more familiar with, because you're actually the one that did it. My sense is that it wasn't, once the program was set up, that it wasn't a significant workload to process those applications and get the information over, assuming that we're going on the same criteria and use the same mechanism as we did before, that the lift wouldn't be that heavy in terms of providing that front end support. I think we can do that.
Take
I
on, do you
will-
have any kind of idea on
I think-
hours?
May I say this, if they're gonna offer utility rate relief for these small businesses, that would be a significant benefit to them. And we'd move around priorities in terms of what we needed to do to try to make that happen.
Hold on, I'm looking at PUD account numbers 155 to 261. So I'm looking at 110 businesses that just signed up specifically just for this program. And then we got all the information out there. I can show that most of these businesses are down 75 to 99% in revenues. Some of them 50, 55.
I can relate.
Yeah. In terms of estimated loss, most of these are smaller businesses that are, 10 to 20, a couple of them 50 to 100,000. Some of them even higher than that are still asking for it.
What percentage of these are you're looking at the screen, are you guessing are the mom and pop type versus the we have 10 employees type?
I'm guessing, let me just keep
That's what
scrolling.
the keyword of guess was.
Well, I mean, if you gave me 10
You
minutes.
want to activate.
You said, what are you thinking? I'm thinking that the vast majority of these are, oh, actually, there's a number here. How many employees do you have, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 5, 6 of them that have 50 to 100 employees out of the 110.
Yeah, I don't think, see, that's kind of my concern is, yes, I want to give business relief to everybody, but the people that have 50 to 100 employees, $1,000 off their power bill. I mean,
So that was 6 out of 110.
I mean,
Okay.
Bill Gates, let's hand him $1,000.
But pretty much all the rest of them are either only the business owners or 1 to 3 employees. So
See, and that's my concern is I have no problem helping, but I don't want essentially corporate welfare.
So if we want to give,
people are hurting and some are only mildly hurting. But I'm not in charge of the program, so I have to vote yay or nay on the whole program, the way the program is. And that's where I'm torn.
well, that might be worth staff having a discussion with the PUD and saying this is what our commissioners, if we're given money, we have a seat at the table to say this is what we want. Where this last time, we weren't given any money, we were just helping out. And it was helping us because I have all this information to give you right now. Right.
Which is awesome because I don't have access to that information. When I do, it just takes.
So I guess from a, as far as the dollar piece of it, because the argument is being made on the part of the PUD is that whereas the COVID, reimbursement issue has been settled, I guess, although this is sort of round 2, is because the argument is since we received reimbursement for more than we expected to be reimbursed for, that we were allowed to offset some current expense, that should, in a perfect world, free up some of that money to reallocate to a project such as this.
And I don't know the dynamics of that.
No, I'm saying that's for the board to do. So that's what I'm saying.
It's a viable reason.
I mean, it is. I mean, when I look at, we ended up, when you look at our cash flow, we did end up in a better place than we had feared we would end as far as our year-end balances, partly because we did receive more reimbursement than we had planned on doing. And so I guess that's the policy question. Do we want to share some of that like we did earlier or not? But I also, the corporate welfare, I
mean, that's a harsh.
I know that's a little harsh.
It's a very harsh term.
But I think
I think that gives everybody the understanding of my point. The person that lives on the hill in a 4,000 square foot house and has this giant bank account full of gold may not need $1,000. Where mom and pop that live in an apartment and can't open their little fabric store, they're in a little need for a little more help. So that's my thing. I guess I would say I'm good for it as long as we have an equal match over there, that they're on the hook for the same. I don't mind our staff doing it if they have time to do it, and it sounds like they do. And then I would like to vet the list and for us to come up with some kind of criteria on, I don't know.
Maybe our money only goes to
Right,
those.
or something.
In terms of staff time, I mean, we've got plenty to do. But this, to me, is a
Is a good
significant
call.
benefit.
I mean,
to
from an
converting
economic,
businesses,
as an economic
and how do I
development,
prioritize my
okay.
But that's what
time?
he says.
Where do we go?
I'm not gonna tell the little mom and pop or the burrito stand where we had lunch today that, you know, they shouldn't get a discount off their power bill if the county can help. I just want to make sure that we're funneling that to the groups of the folks, as Dave would say, that really, 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 really need that help. And not just, oh, look, here's a bonus check.
Okay, so I'm
And
pulling
if
up.
there's a way to do that, you'll have my, okay.
Okay, small business eligibility criteria include being in business for as of January 1st, 2020 with Klickitat County, having between 1 and 10 employees and having been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Agricultural producers do not qualify for the program. The discount percentage is dependent on the type of business. Storefront businesses are eligible for a usage discount of 50% and a waiver of the monthly basic fee. Home-based businesses are eligible for a usage discount of 30%. Discounts will be applied to a business's active KPUD account. So those bigger businesses that put down their thing and the nonprofits, I filtered those out. These are just the applications, not what I actually.
Right, and there was a broader questionnaire there trying to get information. I was a little
remember
surprised
that
when you
because
mentioned.
I qualified at that 30% of the home-based business. I never turned in an application for any of that stuff, but I got the email, so I'm aware of them.
And I've talked to businesses around town that did not apply for any of the funding, that they weren't hurt with what their business.
Or they're hurt a little bit, but they're willing to give the funds to somebody that's hurting more, as opposed to you see the federal funds come out and you get Harvard University applying for a grant because mom and pop bakers can't get the grant, and that's what I'm trying to shift it away from.
And so when you mentioned 40, that's somebody who's filled out the form, maybe the questionnaire, but they didn't get the grant because they wouldn't have met the 10.
They didn't
10
meet the
employees.
criteria, but I still got all their information from them.
Like I said, if there was a way to set it up that we can, I guess I would say cap the top of it at a financial level of some way. I mean, open for, I'm just brainstorming. That we make sure we're giving this down at the make under $100,000 a year companies. You'd have my signature in a New York second.
Do we want to direct staff to have that conversation to see if they're looking at changing those rules? I mean, the only difference, so I have in here, one of the questions, because, you know, the form questions was, you know, I have how much are the average yearly salary range? When did your business disruption start? What's your estimated impact? How much your estimated impact is in dollars, primary business association. There's things that I didn't want to ask because this is all public information.
Right.
And so like things that you stay away from, like what's your salary?
Right.
How much money, you know, what's your gross a year?
And that's what I'm saying, if there's some way that we can do that, whether you do it based off their salary or gross or how many employees, because obviously if you have 10 employees versus 1 employee, you can kind of tell what you make there.
Which it did. That program had a max of 10.
But
And you could also look at, like the last round of the Working Washington grants was focused on those businesses that were forced to close during this late round. It had a heavy focus on restaurants,
right,
gyms.
And I guess I hate naming names, but I would much rather see 10 mom and pop, you know, little burger joints or a fabric store or a burrito taco wagon get it than an in situ kind of a thing. Yes, I feel bad for an in situ but they're gonna survive this way more than mom and pop burrito job.
Right, and those larger companies, the institutes, et cetera, we didn't see any applications
They
from
didn't
them in
qualify.
any of our programs.
Okay, well, it
Nor
sounds like we
SBS.
at least have some consensus on at least thinking about going forward. I guess I'm looking for a number too, and then we're gonna have to have a discussion about where's it coming from? Because it is, you are correct. I mean, there's only so much money. And
this is only the second week of the year.
exactly.
It's the first person with their hand out.
It is. I mean, I think I would be, because I think this is important. I think that from an economic standpoint, economic development standpoint, I think these businesses, and I think even we can, especially targeted at the small businesses, you can get a lot of bang for your buck as far as I think you can help a lot of folks. I mean, I would be comfortable, I guess, throwing out the half match, as we said, and they talked the program, they were going to budget, they thought about the same, about $60,000, so 30,000, we would match the PUD. Is that a place to at least start the conversation?
Yep.
I think I was gonna say 25,000 match for 50. There's businesses that are doing better right now that probably
That's
are
true.
going to apply.
That's a nice rounder number.
So wait a minute, you're putting in 25 for their 50? Is that what you're saying?
No,
That
for a
sounds
total
great.
Yeah. No, I think he was talking that
Yeah,
maybe,
25.
30, 30.
like a 50-50 match.
Got it. That's right. So he was saying 30
30 for
30,000.
60, he's saying 25 for 50.
Got it, okay.
And then if it gets filled up real quick, then,
Maybe we look at
we might be able to amend it a little bit if but it depends. We haven't done a recent survey to see where our businesses are. We know where our restaurants are. We know where our gyms are.
Right.
We don't know where everybody else is anymore. I used to have a pretty good feel for where most people were.
I got a pretty good feel. At least in our neck of the woods. It is not looking pretty.
No. Well, the question is still, what pot of dollars are we gonna find it from?
Well, we don't actually have to decide that today.
Commissioner salaries.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much the PUD gave out this last?
Pretty close to 60 grand.
Right, that's what Randy told me, because that was what I asked.
So maybe repopulated, what was it? Is number 50,000? So we'll put in 25.
Well,
on
we'd
that?
start-
The key to me is like that one was 60 grand, but they got reimbursed, so they really didn't put out anything. I want to make sure they have a vested interest, just like we're gonna have a vested interest. They're not gonna recoup the funds from somewhere else.
Right.
Or just not.
Just because now we're spending our own money
Yeah.
now. We're not giving them money that we were getting from somewhere else.
So if they're gonna run out and get a grant to replace their funds, they can get one to do ours too. I want to make sure they have a vested interest in the program.
And they're welcome to put more money into it.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So I'll talk to Brandy. So we can come up, also look at the metrics and
Right.
make
So
sure.
then we'll come up with 25 as a match. for
Because
their
they were
25.
asking for 200 or 250.
250.
See, there we go, 10%. I like it.
They were what now?
That was their original ask, back before.
Oh, right, when they wanted the COVID dollars, right?
Right.
Okay.
So. Okay, that was on my board pending.
Okay.
And we're always good for it. If we actually decide to fund it, we will. What's the first thing I don't have it in my budget.
I had no intentions of.
I don't like my graph going down below the bottom.
I know. We've always been good for it. If we eventually, that's up for us to figure out where we're gonna get it. So,
All right.
Yeah, I don't like that thought, but it's kind of hard to say no to that either.
yeah.
I will touch base with Brandy.
Thank you, Dave.
No matter how much I wanted to say no to that.
On behalf of the businesses too, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other business?
Where were we?
Oh.
More pending, right?
He would just walked out the door, but there was the state park stuff on there.
I'm just gonna.
So while she's chasing him down out of the bathroom, I did my tour with the airport board and got the big old packet and started reading that. But what I did hear from the chairman of the board, Commissioner Sauter served on that board practically since he came on the commission, and they had nothing but really good things to say, and thank you for your years of service. So I wanted to pass that on, get that on the record that you spent a lot of time and effort down there, and it shows. With all
No,
the
we've
amazing
made a
things
lot
that are
of, we've made a lot of progress.
I mean, Dave, don't take this the wrong way, but they had a 10-year plan, and they actually got almost everything done on their 10-year plan. So good luck on your 10-year plan.
Yeah, that was a little ambitious.
State parks acquisition.
Right. It wasn't on my scope. We sort of looked at it, and isn't that what they came in here and talked to the board about a couple of years ago?
I'm trying to remember, because I know we were, because our general policy is that we're opposed to, but I think we did, I don't know why we made an exception in this case, because they said that they came in and talked to us and that we were okay with it.
Business property.
It's on the swale.
Down at the bottom of the hole.
Bottom of the hole.
And so
Yeah, a lot of times, you know.
But there was a lot, I think the case they made was it was kind of a junky side. It was like, almost like
trash heap, and somebody was staying there, I think, but.
Right.
One of the things that they did, Whitney, Dave's new hire, did some research into the application and everything. And one of the things that it was talking about was what they have planned for that property. And they may have planned a little campground. They may have some other stuff planned down there, which there's only a few other places in this county I would rather not be in a wildfire started than that canyon. So that's something I think it was worthwhile to get in front of you guys to talk about too. There's also a trestle that goes across Swale Creek that's on that property. So they now own the land around the trestle. It also goes up on the hill. I don't know if there's grazing rights or what's going on with that property. There's a lot of questions, but the thought of a campground right down there in that bottom of that hole kind of scares the heck out of me.
And I'm still not clear. I mean, I took a quick look at the letter, and then it was asking, the consultation prior to an acquisition. But I thought this was the project number that was provided, the grant number was something that was last year before last, and I thought the grant stuff information said that the land had closed. They closed on sale.
Which is why I didn't understand why we were getting this now.
Yeah, yeah. We haven't talked to them yet.
Well, I would be curious. I'd like to find out, because if this is the consultation process that they normally go to before acquisition, that's something the board needs to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But I kind of took it from that it closed like in December.
Yeah.
So then are they consulting after, or they said they had made some kind of contact back in 2016 with the board? And I'm trying to remember, there would have had to have been a really compelling reason for us to not oppose that acquisition, because our general, because we generally sent letters saying we're opposed to acquisitions because it's taking it off the tax rolls. There is no danger of development, so why would state parks, and like this parcel, it's 117 acres. Why do you need to buy 117 acres?
Right. A lot of times the county is generally not in favor of more government land ownership. But when it gets to the point where it's willing buyer, willing seller.
Right, maybe that was the thing, yeah.
It might have been to that stage where it's, okay, that's their property.
I'm looking at the project milestones, and it looked like the acquisition closed 12/1 of 2020 on that property.
Yeah, it has.
That trail, so.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was, we just said, we're opposed, but it just is a general thing, but it is willing buyer, willing seller.
And it looks like, they have planned for 5/31 to do, demolition on whatever's down
The
there.
stuff in there. Yeah, I see in the tax rolls that improvements were not, they don't have hardly any value on it.
Yeah.
So there can't be a whole improvement value of $3,600.
Right, I believe several years ago, we went down, we got some funding to remove some old railroad ties that had been stacked in there. That might be the same property in cooperation with the conservation district.
Okay. Well, I'd say, find out what information you can. So-
Why are you sending a letter if this is a
Now it's that
consultation?
done,
Is there,
yeah,
you gave us a grant number, is there more property in play now?
right.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know that.
It would also be nice to know what they plan to do with all the upland property away from the
Right.
trail and the creek.
Notice that that letter was addressed to the planning commission.
Oh, that I didn't notice.
And I emailed the lady back and I told her, I go, planning commission is not the legislative authority.
No.
Board of County
Most
Commissioners
definitely.
are. So Mochi sent it, she forwarded it, so.
I'll touch base with her. I haven't talked to her yet, see if she understands why they're bringing this back up towards their
Now, after the. Okay. Okay, that's it, because I'm gonna recess and run down the hall.
Mr. Chairman, I think, are we ready?
I think we're ready.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, or can you, the regular meeting until 10:30 on.
Oh, and adjourn the regular meeting at 2:10:30 on January 14th, 2021 for the scheduled workshops.
I will second that one.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn until Thursday. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. We are adjourned.
Should we have said that motion should have been till 8 or 8:30 because we're gonna have that other discussion? And if we want to make any.
Oh, that's
Wait a
right.
minute, wait a minute.
No, that's
That's
the following
Oh,
Thursday.
that's right. That's before the Board of Health. meeting.
Board of Health.
This is yeah, you caught me.
But
there.
yes, we
We almost got
next
me.
week, we will have to do that.
No, wait a minute, you guys.
All blends together already.
Oh, the whole 2020 just blended together.
Yeah, I don't think I missigned.
So
dated
when you
anything.
press that button, Lee,
Oh, hang on.
stop. We just gotta make sure that.
Okay, stop recording.
Or just press in and see.
Just up here?
No. See, there's the in button.
Oh, done.
Yeah. And then in meeting.
And
And then
then
it
info.
should, yep.